Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and today we're going to be running an RPG called Lone Wolf Fist, developed by Joel Clark. He's running it for my Tuesday game group, and yeah, so I'll let Joel grab the mic and give an explanation of what the game is.
Man, I really wish I had like a mic stand so I could literally like grab it and like wrestling announce right into my face. That'd be great. Prepare yourselves, kind of thing. But no, okay. So you just want me to kind of give you an intro of what the game's about?
Yeah, I don't know, just tell us, just people that are listening that don't know what the hell we're doing.
Okay, that's fine. So to give you the brief version, if you like Fist of the North Star, if you like Kung Fu in the Post-Apocalypse, this is your game. It's for those who have been following the development of wuxia tabletop role-playing games, and I mean, who hasn't, amongst we gentlemen of leisure, this is a successor to Legends of the Wulin, which is itself a successor to Weapons of the Gods, which has some DNA with the one-roll engine. In the terms of the foolish plebeians who have not been following that, basically what happens is you have a little pool of D10s and you roll them in match sets, and also you have cool Kung Fu powers. And that's it. So, probably the most underwhelming pitch I've ever made.
Well, and I should say, and a really cool rule about Dharma, which I'm very intrigued by.
Yeah, that shares a little DNA with one of the many versions of the Marvel role-playing system. There's actually two that this owes a little bit to. The old Marvel face rip system, I actually took their chart that they had, and I did some development on that, and I made my own charts for this game. So there's a little DNA there. And also the Marvel heroic roleplay that was based on the Cortex system. The Dharmas have a lot in common with that, and also some of Dr. Jenna Moran's writings and like Chubo's Marvel Swiss Frantic Engine and stuff like that. That's a kind of an esoteric ancestor, but the basic idea is that you roleplay in certain kind of weird ways, and that gets you XP. You can also go and fight monsters to get XP because, you know, I'm a classic guy like that. And anyway, so...
Oh, and I just want to add, we're on Skype, and Skype has been very difficult lately. So if people drop
difficult
and have
is polite.
I'm sorry?
Difficult is polite.
Yeah, I would say difficult is polite. Skype has become awful in the past year or two. And so we're looking towards moving the channel to Discord or something in terms of recording. But for right now, we're still stuck on Skype, and if we encounter technical problems, we apologize. But it's all Skype's fault. We've been doing everything right. So.
It's not an advertisement for Skype, damn it.
No. So...
Okay,
yeah,
so
you can tell I'm an angry letter writer just by when I get a product I don't like.
Such a grandpa move.
Yeah.
Dear Mr. Skype, I am terribly disappointed with the service you have provided me thus far.
This last fortnight has been intolerable. Yeah, that's what's going to go on. Yeah, there will probably be angry letters that you will write to me about this game, because unfortunately it is not completely completed. I'm still working on the montage scenes, which I know you're super excited about.
That's why
Thankfully,
I'm here.
I've got enough in my head that...
It's gonna be a montage!
Montage! Oh, you have to call it montage scenes. Got to. I love them so much I made them a reward for players. So, they're a little board game, but I think we'll enjoy them. Anyway, let me give the viewers and as well as my wonderful players here the rundown. The basic thing is you're all one of these 7 heroes I've showed you. These are my attempt at having a kind of like icon or splat characters. So they're all kind of like indicative of their factions. I've got one for the Golden Lions, one for the 5-Star Spirits, on and on for all the 7 different factions. And the reason there's 7 is twofold, by the way. First of all, somehow the number 7 just kept cropping up like 7 and multiples of 7 in the writing of the rules. So I was like, okay, 7 factions. I hate myself, so I'll do this work 7 times. And the second thing is it's actually a little nod to Vampire the Masquerade, which had 7 clans classically. It seems to be like kind of the magic number, and also +1 because the Tremere suck. Moving on from that, you're all from a member of one of these clans, and you're all heroes. You kind of share a cosmic destiny to bring this world back from the apocalypse that destroyed it. So that's why you're all friends. More or less, you've adventured together for a little while. You've formed a sort of loose martial brotherhood. And you don't have to like each other necessarily, but you cooperate for whatever reason. So, because I'm not really big on introductory sessions. I'm all like, yeah, you know each other. Go fight monsters.
Sure.
That's kind of how I do things too. So that's
we could do introductory sessions. Like I'm gonna have to go back on that a little bit because the other thing I wrote, Tiansheng All Above Heaven Act 1 is an introductory section. So it's just one player meets another player, but it's only 2 players. I got 5, so I had to wing it.
Can I ask a question about my character, Joel?
Yes. Okay. Please do.
All right. So I'm playing Cave Buffalo, and I'm a huge, gentle savage that shepherds his mutant family through the darkness below the world. My question is, who do I regard as my mutant family? Does that extend to the other player characters, or is that just anyone who's a member of the Brotherhood of Freaks?
That's people that are a member of the Brotherhood of Freaks.
Okay.
Basically, the Brotherhood are... remember the mutants from Futurama? It's them, except it's the post-apocalypse. There you go. Almost everything can be described in terms of where I stole it from. So.
Has anyone else picked their character yet?
What?
Has anyone else picked their character yet? Because I was.
You see, I was thinking of my one. I was thinking about going as Silver Phoenix.
Oh.
If you want to go as that, Adam, because
you can go with it.
Are you sure? Because I don't mind changing to another one. I can do that.
Torn between Desert Sage and Nuke.
Adam, you're the one who brought up characters first.
I think Desert Sage already.
You have to renege to me on this.
I will go with Silver Phoenix then.
You will be Silver Phoenix. I will choose another one.
I want Nuke.
That is actually the faction name for the record. So let me see his actual name. Yeah, because it should be faction name on top and then character name underneath the art.
Oh, I see.
So it's Spiteful Prince.
Spiteful Prince. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you'll be Spiteful Prince. Steve, who are you going as?
I want to go Nuke.
Kenny?
Gotta go Nuke, yeah.
Desert Sage.
Nuke is great.
You're going to be Desert Sage. Okay. In which case, I think I will be Stoneblade.
Stoneblade. She's a treasure hunt. I think she's the most anime-ish character I put in here, which is freaking saying something.
I've got a lot of experience with anime.
Given I'm literally like Avdol from Jojo.
Okay, so some stuff I did want to draw you guys' attention to, since I've got you all here, my little captive audience. First of all, please ignore the stolen art. The document I sent to all of them, for the benefit of our viewers who aren't seeing this, is about equal parts art I've actually purchased for the game that's going to be like splat art for the game, and art that I have stolen for purposes of just getting the visual across to future artists. So, like, Spiteful Prince of the Silver Phoenix is just Laharl from Disgaea, because I love him so much. But the eventual art will look like that. But to go back to the players for a second, okay, so what you should be seeing is faction name, art, character name, and then a really brief, like, italicized description of, like, what they're about. It's really like a sentence. It's your character now, so just a little bit to kind of drive you in there. The next thing is going to be your Dharma. The way Dharma works is it gives you a little description of what your kind of cosmic destiny is. And this is the thing that sort of drives you out to go and seek kung fu and do cool stuff in the world. So what this does is there's 2 ways to interact with it. Every scene you can do one of these things and get karma for it, which is our version of XP. There's positive and negative. Basically, whenever you want to get one of those things, just tell me that you're going for it, add a character, and then describe how you're doing it. And then you do whatever action that is, and you get a karma for it. You'll note, looking at them, that a lot of them are kind of benign. They're like, oh, do something nice for someone. And some of them are things like, put a disobedient or traitorous underling in their place. You won't always get the opportunity for that, but it's a very characterful thing to do to kind of push yourself towards that destiny.
Do I need to...
Both of them will get you experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just depends on which one you want to do. The negative ones also get you experience, but you also get a resource called Zooey, and I can spend Zooey to make bad stuff happen. So think of it as the GM karmic comeuppance stat. That's what that's for.
Do I need to draw your attention to that whenever I'm going in either direction there? Like if I do something positive or negative, should I say, Joel, this fits with my Dharma?
Yeah. Draw my attention to it, because you still need to have GM approval about whether or not that's a strong enough action to hit the trigger.
Okay.
You can do it once per scene.
Can I ask, is there a reciprocal mechanism for positive interactions?
Yeah, like right there. If you do a positive one, you just straight up get karma. The drawback to those is that usually they're a little bit harder than the negative ones. The negative ones are kind of like, if you don't want to have something difficult happening right now, usually the negative ones are more like the lazy ones. You know, like, obey another's command. Okay, that's kind of out of character for me, but gets me Dharma. On the other hand, at some point I'm going to grab your Zooey and say, okay, a mercenary shows up to kill you. or some other similar thing will befall you. So yeah, the idea behind those is that the positive ones are more difficult or cause more short-term havoc, and the negative ones is kind of like lurking havoc. All right. After that, it's archetype, which there's 3 kinds. Basically, you have guy who's strong, guy who's smart, and guy who has magic. So strong hero, cunning hero, and enlightened hero. And those are going to influence your effort pool, which is the number of d10s you roll to try to get matching sets to do stuff. Your health should all be 5. That advances at different rates, but that's more of a later game thing you have to worry about. Health is actually in the form of little boxes, each one with 10 HP each. When you get hit, you can either die, or you can spend HP out of your little health boxes to blunt the blow. The more damage you take, the worse it is. Every time you spend all 10 of one of the boxes, you get an imbalance, just like a lingering injury. If you lose all of them, you die. Well, you don't necessarily die, you just get knocked unconscious or die. So that's how that works. Focus slots are interesting. After you're done rolling your dice and matching sets, if you have any left over, you can save them in your focus slots. It's 1 die or 1 action per focus slot. So, like, for example, Spiteful Prince here has 1 focus slot. He's an enlightened hero. He's got more magic than he has focus. So you can use that one of 2 ways. You can either save one of your dice so that next time you roll, you effectively have another die to match, which is really useful. You can also save an action there. So, like, say you want to use your telekinesis power to lift up something heavy with your mind with that guy. You can save that from turn to turn and keep that thing lifted up as long as you're holding the action there. So that's the other thing that focus can do. So it's actually a pretty powerful little stat. The next thing is chakra. There's 2 varieties. Open chakra gets you magic go-go juice called prana. If I had a little more time to prep, I would have written down the exact amount it would have given you. You might want to make a note of this because it's going to come up pretty consistently in combats. For every open chakra, you start out with 10 prana, and you get 2 more per turn. It's called a pool of 10 and a refresh of 2. Slumbering chakra are things that you can access. You can like pop them open and have more power later on. And the way you do that is you just take a spirit action. So you just get a rank 2 or higher spirit action. You can open one of those up. And they have a couple of things that make them a little complicated that I'll get into in combat, but that's the basics of how that works. Weapons just give you little bonuses. I'll tell you what they are when they come up. Masteries there are 7 skills in this game, which I didn't bother to write down on one list because I'm lazy. But there are 7 skills in this game, and a mastery just gives you basically a +1 rank. In other words, effectively another matching die for whenever you do a certain skill. So, like, for example, going back to Spiteful Prince again, he has intellect, so he's smarter than other people. So if he rolled his die pool and he got a set of 2 2s, so he got a 22. If he did an intellect action with that, if that's what he chose to do with it, it would be bumped up by 1 rank, so it would go from 22 to 32. And that happens just all the time. It's really nifty to have those. Everything else on the character sheet is techniques, which is your magic superpowers. Those are complex enough that they're like spells in D&D. The very most basics of those are the cost up there is how much prana it is to use the technique. The rank is how much it boosts up your 10s column. So again, a rank 1 for, like, say, destructive force here would make it go from 22 to 32, 44 to 54, that kind of thing. The facing is the facing of the set of dice you're trying to boost. So if you roll a d10, whatever number is on top is the facing. I rolled a 2 in this case. So a single 2 is a 12. Number of dice is the 10s column. The facing is the 1s column. So if I'd rolled another 2, it would have been 22. Another 2, it would have been 32, etc. The facing on destructive force says that I can only match that technique with a die that is facing 4 through 9. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can boost those sets. Anything else I can't do. So this 2, I couldn't boost it with destructive force. I could with telekinesis, the next one, which is 0 to 6. It just basically gives you a range of stuff you can boost with it. The effect is the magic power it gives you. There's keywords like offense, only used for attack, and defense, only for defense. Those are the really big ones. And then the last thing there is a skill. Much like a mastery, you can use your techniques to boost one of your skills. And most skills are capped at a rank 6. Techniques allow you to bend or break that ceiling. Okay. So that's how you get the really crazy level. I blow up a building with my mind powers. And that's the game, in short and in brief. Just so you gotta have an idea of what your character sheets are telling you.
Okay.
All right.
Questions?
I would need to see this in action, I think.
Yeah, I kind of learned by doing, so I think I'll.
That's the thing. You'll learn it. It's very intuitive when you're doing it, because you'll talk about you'll use a plain language sentence like, "I want to lift up a train with my mind and slam it into the bad guy," and like all of the parts of that will click into place. Okay. I'm just autistic, and so I made certain to be really specific about which rules are being used when for that. Anyway, any questions before I actually start this beast? Or are you guys kind of cozy?
I think we're ready, and we got an hour, so I'd say...
I've got one thing.
Yeah.
You keep on referring to prana. Is this a specific stat or kind of like pool of resources that we should see on our character, or is it just a generic thing that we build up through gameplay?
It's the generic resources one. You can also build it up through gameplay. To give you guys an idea of exactly how much you have, for every open chakra you have, you just have 10 sitting on your character sheet. Unless you're an enlightened character, you'll probably only have 10. Enlightened ones will have 20. Okay. And you'll get more and spend as the game goes on and on. So do make a note of that. Again, if I had just a touch more time to prep, you would probably have seen that on a character sheet. If you look at the actual sheet I sent over, there's a bunch of chakra on the left side, and then there's a big pool where they all are. Yeah, and like usually I would use like glass beads or dice or something to sit in there to kind of give you an idea of how many you have, because it does go up and down a bit. It is a resource that jumps all around during combat. Okay.
So this is a quick lore thing. So prana turns into specific elemented chakra, or
there's a bunch of like elemental stuff that can happen. So like for example, the person playing Nuke over there, whose name I've already forgotten, my bad. I remember your character name. Steve? Okay. Well, Steve, I'm gonna forget your name again.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
His name's Bob.
No worries, I do it all the time.
Okay, I remember Adam's name and Brendan's name. Everyone else, I got a Kenny. Is there a Kenny? Raise your hand. Okay, there you go. You're Kenny. All right, so I knew one of you was named Kenny. I just didn't know which one it was. Try not to kill your character. It's such a stereotype at this point.
You guys get South Park, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Gen X humor, my favorite variety. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Kenny, they must do that to you all the time, by the way, huh? You must get, like, constant "they killed Kenny" jokes.
back in high school, yeah. Once I sort of moved on to uni and work, less so.
Not
just wait until we get them some together. They'll come back to you.
It turns out like teleconferences aren't the best time to say, "Oh my God, you're Kenny."
Well,
if I was
the star of South Park isn't shining quite as bright anymore, but also Kenny's a fairly common name. So, but if I do inadvertently kill your character first, I deeply apologize. Anyway. But yeah, the person playing Nuke's character has a bunch of fire-based magic. That's really cool because your techniques interact with that. If there's more disasters around, which you cause by burning stuff, you get more prana with some of your other techniques. So that's really neat and very specific. And sometimes your fire chakra will help you with that. But it's all like on a per name basis, kind of. Like there's not like a general rule about a fire chakra always does this. The older games did have that, but that was too much of a migraine for all the other stuff I was doing. So I was like, I'm just going to put that in the side, and then if we want to play with it, we can, but not a core thing. We're not going to do that. It's just a lot easier that way.
Okay.
Because it used to be that every time you had a different kind of color of chi come in, it would change like your physical appearance or your emotional state, and the chi spent differently on different techniques. And it was a lot to keep track of, and it wasn't very well balanced. So I was like, nah, I'm going to keep the names, because I might need them for something later. But that's what I'm... Yeah. So yeah, thankfully that's a lot more simple than you'd think. Anyway.
Well, for the purposes of this playtest, we can ignore that entire left column.
It's useful to have, because like they could tell you... you have certain chakra that are slumbering, a certain number. I don't care which ones you choose. But during a combat, you can open them up and get more prana from them. It's a resource that's used to kind of pace combats. So that's one of the big claims to fame of something that I actually designed for the game, is that you get your magic go-go juice during fighting. It's not just something that just sits around and slowly dwindles. You actually open it up and increase it during a combat, which other games do that. Like the third edition of Exalted does that. A few other different games do that. But if you do it the other way, where you just have a big pool of power sitting, what you have is games that are awesome at first and then immediately go into a failure spiral. This has a more kind of weird, uneven jankiness to it, which I love. I love the janky stuff. I'm super technical terms here. I'm sorry if I'm losing you guys with all this highbrow tech I'm throwing out there.
My melon hammer is one of those giant, round hammers that looks like a round watermelon, right?
It is. It's like a round watermelon on a stick, and you're going to smash somebody's skull with it. It's going to be great. If I ever get around to actually making this game start. I lost somebody. Whose name I forgot.
No. He just popped out for a minute. He'll be back in. That was Steven.
And just
Steven.
keep in mind, I'm going to need to duck out at 10 till the end of this hour, whatever that hour is for you. So I apologize. I'm not going to have to.
Well, you shouldn't apologize.
I'm going to hit that out.
You should apologize and Steve should.
It's going to be brief. It's going to be very brief. I should probably start you guys in media res since it's going to be kind of brief. My initial thought of this, I made this whole city. Let me actually show you. I made a whole big old thing. And I'm thinking I over-prepped by more than I should have. Because there's different scales in this game. The goal of the prep, I don't know if you can see that very well, the goal of the prep is to kind of make everything so that it's like a dungeon crawl. So even when you're outside, you're basically crawling through a dungeon. You go from area to area, which is kind of the equivalent of going from room to room. There's encounter charts, similar to the wandering monster charts. The whole idea of prepping it that way was so that it seamlessly go from battle to exploration and back and forth, which is great. My initial thought of this was, okay, I got this big cool jungle with a haunted city in it. I'm going to have them enter from the west and then kind of slowly go east and explore all this stuff. We only got an hour. So what I'm going to do instead is say that already happened. You guys were going through these desert wastes after your most previous adventure, encountered a jungle which seemed relatively safe compared to just slowly getting irradiated to death, went inside and immediately got beset by headhunters. You took care of them and are now going deeper and deeper into the jungle. So we're just going to start you right there. So it's just un poco easier than otherwise. So let me get one of these little mini maps that I did here. Yeah, there we go. We'll just start you off in good old Scrap Town. It gives you a nice, like, kind of post-apocalyptic vibe. Again, if I'd had a touch more time to prep, there would have been a much flowery description, but I'm just going to kind of skip past that part. You're going through this deep and dense jungle, and it slowly starts to thin out, and you find yourself in the ruins of a post-apocalyptic city. A fairly decent-sized one. None of the buildings are like skyscraper tall, but there are still buildings here. They're just all vine-choked and overgrown, and there are teeming masses of people doing stuff. You can smell burning steel and gasoline and such like. So there's habitation and industry here. You can hear people making noises. There's someone making some kind of speech far enough away that their words are just this kind of garble. But you can hear the occasional boom of their voice and the roar of the crowd afterwards. So that's what you guys stagger into. Again, you're unfortunately all of your rations and water have been hopelessly irradiated, so you're getting hungry and thirsty, and you're in a somewhat desperate situation. There's a dense jungle filled with unknown dangers behind you, and before you, there's a post-apocalyptic city teeming with potentially savage life. So I'm going to ask you guys what you want to do, and we'll just go from there.
I think we need to go into the city and get supplies. What does everybody else think?
I want to get some food.
Yeah, again, big time. Look
If
I'm
I
gonna take a
don't
deep
have something
breath.
right now, I will literally die.
I'm gonna take a deep breath and go, this smells like a hive of wretchedness and villainy. Perfect scene for the hero of justice to work his trade.
It's a good point about the justice there. It does actually smell quite a bit like villainy. All right, so let's start with something kind of low key. Let's try to get that food. Who they want to do food?
Hello.
Hello, there you are. Okay, so here's how actions work. There's really kind of two ways to approach it: descriptively and mechanically. I'm gonna start this mechanically because we're kind of showing you how the ropes work. So I want you to pick up a D10 for each one of your effort pools. So if you have like an effort of 4, then pick up 4. Effort of 5, pick up 5. And hopefully I didn't
Effort
sneak
of 5. I don't have enough D10s, but I'll remember what I've rolled and re-roll.
Oh, it's gonna suck.
No worries, I'm good with numbers.
Yeah, I believe you.
Right. So roll one for each one, yeah?
Yep. I'm trying to roll that.
So 7 and 8, 3 and 3,
Nice.
and 4. So 3, 3, 4, 7, 8.
Beautiful. Okay, so the way you would normally arrange those, if you're arranging them spatially, is you would have the 3s on top of one another, because they're a set of 2 3s. That equals 23. Then it would go numerically, in just ascending order, so you have 4, and then 7, then 8, just like that. So what that translates to in system terms is a single rank 2 action of 3, so 23 is total on that one. Then a single rank 4, rank 7, or a rank 1.
A rank 1 at 7, a rank 1 at 4, rank 1 at 8, and 1 rank 2 at 3. I understand.
You got it. Okay. Again, this is for the benefit of everyone listening. So the way this works is you would now think about it in terms of, like, how do you want your character to go about looking for food? You tell me, like, what's the strategy you're using there? This is the descriptive element.
Well, I'm a nice girl. I'm a bit haughty. Maybe I've lived in a lap of luxury a bit before. So I suppose I would probably walk around some marketplace, looking at the different stalls and stuff, and waiting for some kind street vendor to offer me some samples so that I can try them all and eat my fill and walk off.
Not too bad. All right. So, lots going on there. You don't really have to roll to move except in extenuating circumstances, so just leisurely walking forward into the town doesn't really require any sets. So that's good. And I imagine you guys are just kind of like following her. You are, unfortunately, before you get all the way to the marketplace, you go through this area where there's a bunch of crumbled, vine-choked buildings, and there's a bunch of dudes in like this sort of like scrapped armor that's been haphazardly painted red. And they notice you just sort of like strolling up to the city, level crude weapons at you. Actually, surprisingly sharp and well made, if crude weapons. And they're just like, "Halt! Who goes there?" Really, really brusque about the whole thing. They all are wearing helmets, by the way, with this kind of like World War II gas mask thing going down. So clearly they're important NPCs who will be named later.
It is I, spiteful prince, and my entourage.
My entourage. That's wonderful. That's so great. I'm going to make you roll dice, too. How do you like that?
I take it back. No.
Roll those dice, Adam. You can't escape now. The mechanics have you with their jaws.
So I roll my effort pool? Is that what I do?
Yep, in D10. And just line up in the same way we just described.
All right, I got a 8, 8, 4, and a 10. So I got a rank 2 8 action there, and a 4 and a 10.
Okay, so here's the thing you can do mechanically. One of the 7 skills is heart. And since we are right now in a real-time scene where things are just kind of going the same, more or less the same speed they're going in our real world, when you say stuff to them, if you want to use heart, you can actually either intimidate them or impress them or more or less just kind of make them do what you want them to do. Now, you could also just talk. Nothing's stopping you from making a convincing argument to the NPCs. But if you wanted to approach it mechanically with what I call avatar strength, you can just say, you know what, I'm going to do a rank 2 heart action.
Okay.
And we could look at the effect chart, which is somewhere in the gigantic document that you guys all now have access to. And they'll kind of give you an idea of how effective that is just in a mechanical dimension. So I'm going to do that real quick, if my computer ever lets me. There we go. Good boy. This thing is, oh my god. It's been having hiccups all day. I think it's because I had YouTube on listening to music while I was prepping, and it's just it's having none of that. It's like, oh man, streaming not gonna happen. Okay, so looking at the heart effect chart under rank 2, this is also these are generally tiered, and they also are like tiered specifically for the skill. So a rank 2 is basically what a really capable human being can do at their maximum. So that's good enough, according to this, to sway the opinion of an entire mortal family. So a group of like, in this case, it's a large group from 50 to 100. So I guess when I said family, I meant like extended family.
A clan.
Yeah, like a whole pod. Well, clan's another one on here, which is like over 1,000. So it's not quite that good. You can also maintain a convincing false identity, shame others in a foreign culture, or establish customs in your native culture. So that's a pretty impressive role. Again, this is what a human being could reasonably do more or less at the peak of human potential in just a couple of sentences. So you strut in, all amazing like that, and you spend your 2 8s, and you're just like, hey, it's me, I'm the prince, you know what to do. And they're so impressed, they're like, yeah, the prince, please come right in, sir. And they even give you like an honor guard of 2 guys to sort of like cart you around town.
Excellent.
I'm going to start giving them shit for giving us shit.
Oh, they take it in stride. You do note that I'm not going to roleplay them because that would require effort. But you do note that both of them are kind of got like a country bumpkin / like very uncivil savage kind of way of doing things. But for that, they have a kind of a weird adherence to this really like hyper sophisticated set of moral and noble principles. So it's a really strange contrast. These guys, whatever culture they're from, is pretty peculiar. But yeah, they show you around, and since you are already walking to the marketplace, you'll get there relatively shortly. Basically, there's just this big concreted over area that used to probably be a great market square, and is now a bunch of like stalls and tents and people working on things. Actually, you know Bartertown? It's Bartertown, and you know who run Bartertown. But yeah, you get there, and within a few moments, you've already found a stall full of succulent and fleshy fruit that bleeds when you cut it open, but otherwise tastes like veal and is really delicious and filling. So that's fun. Other things.
I will enjoy.
Do you say fruit that tastes like veal?
Yep, it is literally fleshy, not in the sense of like you imagine like a vegetable or fruit would be fleshy, but in the terms of actual like flesh with veins and cartilage and all sorts of strange things. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, the guy who's selling it like keeps looking over at the honor guard that you guys have and like mentioning how expensive this stuff is, and they're like, yes, you will be well compensated. Remember, these are honored guests. This man is a prince, and these are his entourage. Clearly overwhelmed by your presence, by the way.
I'll be extremely haughty.
Well done.
Can I look for evidence of the villainy that Kenny had mentioned earlier?
There was villainy?
Yeah, absolutely.
You had mentioned something about villainy, didn't you?
This entire place seemed villainous, he said.
Yeah.
Some seek food.
Of course it is.
There is villainy everywhere, if you look hard enough.
You may absolutely do that. So go ahead and roll your effort dice.
Right.
Again, it isn't necessary to start every action with rolling your effort dice. I'm just trying to show you guys as much of this as soon as I can.
Okay, so I roll 60-10, and I got a 10.
It's spoiled.
I got 2 2s, a 7 and a 1, and an 8.
Not bad. So no sets, in other words. Oh, no,
I got 2 2s. Is that a set?
That is. Also, don't forget that you have masteries here. What was your character again?
My character's Cave Buffalo.
Cave Buffalo. What does he have? What's his mastery? Is it heart?
Mastery is endurance.
Endurance. That's right. He's a big tough guy. All right. What you're going to want to use here is senses. You're literally just going to use your 5 senses to look around and see if there's any evidence of stuff. So let's take your result of 2 in this case and see what rank 2 peak mortal is for senses and action scenes. And by the way, the skills have moderately different uses depending on the speed of the scene. In real-time scenes like we're in right now, usually get complete discrete results. You see this, you break that, you endure this, you move here. Well, in action scenes, which are much faster, you'll have a more like staggered result. Instead of breaking something, you'll hurt something and kind of reduce its structural integrity, like hitting hit points, kind of. Okay. Whereas in a real-time scene, you have you have more time to focus your efforts on something. And in montage scenes, you can even make larger things happen, because not only are you rolling and doing one discrete action, you're doing multiple actions as well as you can over a long period of time. So these do have different effects depending on the kind of speed of scene you're in. So that's a thing you can do. Anyway, in the case of looking at the senses effect chart, you can do the following. Notice well-hidden or extremely subtle details, like uncovering a spy's false identity by observing their body language, or smell of poison in cooked food. You could also, because senses is a twofold skill, it's used for both spotting things and hiding. It's kind of a situational awareness skill. You could also have hidden a particularly concealed spot, such as sparse vegetation, or a dim room with no furniture. So it gives you an idea of the kind of terrain that you can hide in. So in this case, being able to spot really well concealed things allows you to kind of read the crowd and notice things about like the way they're behaving and infer what that could mean. You'll notice there that I'm kind of interpreting the effect chart liberally. This is something that I encourage teams to do within the text, by the way. In this case, you're able to really clearly kind of see the way the lines of authority in this place work. And I imagine that you're talking to this about to your Golden Lion, for instance. He's the one who mentioned the whole villainy thing. And while you're comparing notes with him about like what you're seeing, this is all kind of triggering stuff in his mind, because there is a villainy at play here. There's clearly like a tiered sort of quasi-feudal system where there's some kind of really glorious, powerful leader. They have an army that surrounds them of elite soldiers, and then the people more or less are slaves to that or recruits for that. So that's kind of the tiering system. But that's a sophisticated feudal system, and the only other place that really exists is in the Golden Lion territories, where they have a sort of chivalric version of that. So that's kind of peculiar. You're able to really easily follow like the way the crowd moves and the way people act and what they look at because of your incredible feat of senses. And that allows you to pretty easily intuit where the seat of power is for this guy. It's somewhere to the north, in some building north of the market square is probably where this guy is. You can also hear that booming speech coming from over there, and the roar of the crowd is from that direction, so you kind of honed in on what's going on over there. Furthermore, while you're looking around, you do notice that there's two other broad exits to this little city. There's to the south, where you can see the jungle sloping away, and then in the distance, peeking over the jungle, there's the roofs of a more sophisticated military complex. There's something going on over there. And to the east, as you keep going like further along this way, you can see the jungle starting getting really thick, and then these like thick palls of like black smoke and such like coming from that direction. So Lore knows what's over there, but probably nothing pleasant. Anyway, who's next?
I look at Kenny. What's your character's name?
Desert Sage.
I'm sorry, Desert
Sage.
What? I say Desert Sage, and I explain all of these things to Desert Sage, and that I see, and I say, where do you think the greatest villainy resides here?
And I think I'll look over to sort of where the sound that's coming from. This is the booming voice addressing the crowd, and I'll go, if there is anywhere we should look, it's to the loud voice misleading the masses. We must hear what this despot has to say and refute him in the name of justice. And I will start striding towards the north.
I fall in behind him. And
at this point, my neck will crane round and my head will swivel about like an owl's. And my eyes will be replaced with whatever currency we are using in this system. As I will go, the leader of villains, you say? Well, he might have great treasures. Would we not infer? Well, let's go.
I don't need much convincing to overthrow any false leader who has set himself up here.
Well, Adam, you also need to maintain the pretense that we're your entourage, right? So you have to.
It's not a pretense. Pretense.
Clearly, the entourage. These are all second fiddles.
Oh.
To be fair,
I can act as treasurer of your state, right?
We'll discuss this in more detail later.
Whatever I claim,
there is a despot to overthrow.
My facts don't come back to you. I'll just say nonchalantly.
Nonchalantly, I like that. Alright. Gee, I wonder if I actually wrote down the stats. I thought I did. Wasn't that what I was doing a minute ago? I'd like probably squeeze one quick, tight combat in with this guy. He's actually pretty powerful, but there's enough of you that you'll probably make short work of him. There's not really a challenge rating in this system anywhere. I've never really found much use for them. But I have found, through playtesting, that a way you can kind of see what the relative powers of things are is you can just add up their effort pool and their total chakra on a given side. That's more or less who's going to win. So, unfortunately, with a group this big, usually groups are about 3 people or so, with a group this big, there's really not one villain powerful enough to challenge like 25 odd effort dice. So you're gonna make short work of him most likely. But
let's sweep through the world.
Maybe he'll kill one of you. We'll see. All right. I do wish I had prepped a cool speech for the guy, because I based this dude off of Peace from Ralph Bakshi's Wizards, which I keep trying to trick Brendan into watching with me, but he's just too tough for me.
I have bad memories. I have bad memories of Wizards.
Character, they haven't had any dialogue yet.
Yeah.
I don't feel so stereotypical if I kill Steve's character first. Like, that feels okay. You ever hear, like,
Steve's very agreeable when things happen to his character. I get the least amount of flack from Steven.
Yeah, it happens.
He always has the least limbs of any
He's
character.
been
Yeah,
a fair
exactly.
few brutal deaths of his characters. I've seen to a few of them.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like I had a ridiculously long run with my first RPG character that lasted the better part of 2 years, and then it's just like, well, whatever happens, happens.
Now it's karma.
I think the karma was when his character died, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair,
What's-
that was ridiculous.
What's this jerk saying, Joel? What's he speaking?
Okay, so my initial thought was, I don't want to repeat the speech, but I was thinking I was going to do something kind of similar to the speech that opened up Zardoz. You guys remember that? The gun is
Yeah.
good, this is evil. He's doing something kind of similar to that. Basically, when you get there to the square, there's a whole bunch of like soldiers and such like in the same kind of regalia everyone else is. This guy is on the top floor, what used to be like the third floor of a building, which is now the top floor. It was apparently demolished at some point in the apocalypse, and it's kind of been like rebuilt out of medieval technology. So there's a bunch of like fitted stones and what have you. And he's on top of that. He is all in actual like resplendent red armor with like a red cloak, and he's got like a proper gas mask, except it has Viking horns on it. And he's given one of these big evil guy speeches. You know, the sword is good. You must earn your blade by killing our enemies. The world is full of wickedness. And he's talking about how, like, he's bringing back something that's called the... Wait a minute. I got it down here. Where are you, buddy? I had a really cool name for this thing. Yeah, there it is. The Havoc King. Fuck yeah. Just thought of this while I was prepping. Anyway,
How big
What's
is
that?
this building that he's on, and how strong is its integrity appear to be?
It's... The top floor was reinforced, so its integrity is pretty reasonable. It's about 3 stories tall, and it's pretty fat. It's like one of those kind of apartment building things. It's only
made of
one
stone, by the way. Did you say?
Concrete and stone. Yeah, it's probably
It's
got.
not made of gunpowder.
Gotcha. It is not made of gunpowder, but you know.
There's just a little wick, like out the back for us to go up and light.
Does it say Acme on the side?
Acme of post-apocalypse buildings. Oh man, we really should have contracted with them.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
I don't have a appropriate speech to counter whatever the fuck he's saying, so I'm going to like call out in a loud voice and say,
something. Well, just a moment while you're thinking of that. Adam, you're my Silver Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You the culture of the Silver Phoenix has a lot of knowledge from the before the burning times. So you uniquely as a faction have this kind of thing where you happen to know facts about things that are kind of obscure or knowledge that's been lost. So a Havoc King is kind of a big deal. Did you ever see Nazgûl: The Valley of the Wind? Any of you guys?
I have not seen that.
No.
Okay, it's a Studio Ghibli film. The plot of that is that there were these basically giant living mecha monsters that ruined the world, and the story takes place thousands of years later in like a post-apocalypse, and everything's kind of like evened out more or less. There's a few patches of like nuclear fallout, but for the most part it's evened out. And this one warlike faction finds one of these things, like the ruins of it, and they start like bringing it back to life to destroy the world. That is a Havoc King. It straight up stole that concept. Basically, it's like an 18-story tall Godzilla monster that obeys a warlord, and it's one of the things that ended the world. So the fact that this guy is bringing one back to life is really bad. It's like fate of the world stuff going on. Really important to stop that before it happens. And he seems really confident he can pull this shit off. So, some context for you.
Not knowing any of that, I am just gonna, call out the tyranny, the oppression of the masses, and exploiting the people, and how we must return the means of production to them.
I'll back him up on a couple.
Communism, what the hell?
I'll back him up on a couple of points of that, and then I'll distance myself from it.
Yeah, that.
So can I try and sway the crowd with heart? So do I have to do an effort roll for that?
You can. He's not happy about that. So, so you may go ahead and try.
Fascists.
He's such a fascist. Well, this guy's literally named Red Tyrant because I'm creative. So, yeah. I mean...
So, I've got a mastery in heart. So, do I roll 6 or do I roll 5 and then things happen after that?
You'll roll 5 since it's your normal effort pool.
Right.
And whatever set that you get that you choose for heart, you'll increase the rank of that set by 1 because you're a master of that.
So, I've got 1, 2, 3, and 2 5s.
Alright, so the 2 5s is probably what you use for that one. In that case, it would be a 25. And because you have Heart Mastery, it would actually be 35. So you go past what most humans can do into the Enhanced rank. So this allows you to sway the opinion of a large mortal organization from 100 to 1,000 people. In other words, everyone who can listen to you can sway. Pretty impressive. And you could even establish a custom in an alien culture. So in this case, this is kind of an alien culture to you, but your words are so persuasive that the people are like, hey, actually, maybe we shouldn't try to kill the whole world. And they start to really kind of get behind your ideals. Now, it requires a montage scene to really cement any kind of big cultural movements. So that's something you got to kind of work your way up to. But you can, like you're doing right now, temporarily really change people's hearts. And so that takes that, 1,000-man army this guy's got right in his front lawn there and makes them into something he can't really use in this ensuing combat scene. So that was a good move. First of all. Second of all, he is super pissed about that. And he does something that gives you kind of an interesting pause, because he puts his hand to his sword hilt and he pulls it out. And when he does that, he does 2 things. First of all, he reveals that his blade is made out of burnished gold. The only people that have swords like that aren't just crappy golden swords that are actually things that are magical are golden lions. So this guy either killed a golden lion or he is a golden lion. And he probably is one, because the second thing that he does is he shoots lightning, these arcs of lightning from his chest all the way up his arm to the sword. And when he pulls it out, it just kind of cracks into the sky. So he uses a golden lion technique on top of that. So this guy is part of your faction. He's some kind of fallen hero. He levels his blade at you, and he invokes this ancient kind of counting coup thing, where he's like, okay, you want to be the king here? You want to rule these people? Let's see your mettle. Let's see the mettle of you and yours. And he'll launch down from there like an anime character. And you guys get to roll, and we do combat.
Is there any water nearby?
Can I try and do something just in the interim of that?
Sure. This is all happening really quick, so...
No, absolutely. When we arrive there and we see this 18-story tall construction that may be some kind of mech weapon thing that'll destroy stuff, right?
Well, you only hear about it. You don't actually see this 18-story tall monster anywhere. He's talking about owning it, but there's no place nearby that it could be housed. Now, you did see a huge military complex further off to the south. Putting 2 and 2 together, it's probably there.
Right. In which case, can I use my agility to try and nab that treasure?
To run all the way there?
Yeah.
Talking about running several miles in a few moments.
I have agility as a mastery.
You have agility as a mastery. Do you actually have any agility techniques too? Because it's not impossible. But let's use the effect chart the other way. Let's use it kind of in the backwards way, where we look at the minimum you would need to get with that and see if that's realistic for you. So looking at agility, going that far, let's see. You would probably need to run about 750 miles per hour to zap all the way there within the space of him doing this. That is a rank 5 effect. So if you roll your effort, and you add your mastery to that. You can also use your techniques to possibly push that higher if you have one that boosts agility. So it's not in the realm of possibility.
I say
Let
go
me
for it,
just have a
Elliot.
look. So there's leopard and monkey motion.
I think that's an agility one.
Creates both a defense and agility action when used. This agility action is taken out of sequence, allowing you to move before the foe takes any other actions. This is incredibly useful for hasty retreat.
Yes. Now that's the effect. That's what it does in combat when you're fighting. Underneath that, the skill should also be agility, right?
As far as I see, this technique does not mention the skill, but that may just be because that was cut off. It doesn't mention anything else like that.
Let me see. Because I think that one actually has agility as well. That's an Emerald Chiron move. Boop.
Apologies for complicating things at this moment.
No, it's fine. This is all stuff that happens. Yeah, that should be agility. Okay, but yeah, that would have skill agility underneath of it on top of that. There's a little bit of complexity here. So the cost of that is 7. You have a prana pool of 10 right now. So you can not only can you activate that technique right now, you can activate it without it becoming obvious that you're using magic. The only thing that would make it obvious is that you're shooting like a bullet from where you are all the way down there. But if nobody saw that, then all they'd hear is that little snap as the air behind you closes in. So yeah, that's rank 2, and it's facing 0 to 3. So the only real restrictions on using that is whatever set you're using has to have a facing of 0, 1, 2, or 3. So if you're rolling your effort and adding your mastery to it, if it's that, it adds 2 ranks. So if you get a rank 2 action with what you're rolling, you can add your mastery for additional rank 1, and then use that for additional 2 ranks. That gets you to 5. You would poof there in a heartbeat and be right there.
Okay.
So now you guys are kind of seeing some of the crazier levels of power that you possess, even as starting characters.
So, just if I get this right, if I roll my effort pool, which is 5d10, as long as I get a set of 2 that are facing 0 to 3,
yes,
then I will be able to succeed.
Exactly. Nailed it. Perfect.
Excellent.
I can't believe I explained that right in only one try.
Fingers crossed. Let us see.
0 in this
Also,
game is 10.
So I've got...
What's that?
Steve?
And 0 is 10, yeah.
Yeah, 0 is 10. Yeah, because some tens have 0s and some have 10s. It just depends on what kind they are. I was like, it's all 0. Screw it.
Okay. So 9 is the highest you can technically roll.
Oh. Okay, I've rolled 4 dice so far. I've got 4, 8, 1, and 3. Do I get a set? 4. Ah, damn, so I got a set of 4s, but no more.
It gets you to 3 if you want to take it, but that's not quite enough to zoom all the way there. Unless you happen to have another thing that boosts agility. I think the highest you can get is 1, though.
Actually, no, I looked at it. There is Badger's Furious Defense, which does say skill agility.
You could, but remember, it's only rank 1, and only get to rank 4 total. It's not quite as powerful as that one. Because you should all have, as starting characters, 3 novice level techniques that usually boost things by 1 rank, and then 1 expert level, which boosts it by 2. So the skill one isn't quite as impressive as it will be eventually.
Would I be able to use both those as well, or?
You can only enhance 1 action 1 time with 1 technique.
Okay, in which case I think I'd have to use Leopard and Monkey Motion, which is 2 ranks. That would bring it up to, with my mastery, total 4.
So close.
Unfortunately.
Not quite cool enough to jump all the way there. If you did jump all the way there, you would have seen it growing inside of a huge, 5 or 6 story egg. So it's enough to ruin it. You could destroy a stupid robot, but you couldn't, unfortunately, pile it back and blow him up with it. Mostly because I didn't write the stats for it down. You could actually do the game. Because, why wouldn't you want them to do that in the full game? Obviously, that's the thing you want to have happen. Yeah, I am not afraid of the power ceiling, guys. Why it's supposed to be possible. Alright, so let's see. We got 22 minutes left until everything wraps up, and that leaves us 12 minutes until poor Adam's got to head out. So we'll make this as brief as we can, and we'll shift into an action scene. Okay. So we'll have Red Tyrant come and try to fight you guys all by his lonesome. So the way this works is at the start of an action scene, at the start of every turn in an action scene, It's kind of like a turn, again, going back to D&D. This Skype is just being such a bitch to me right now. Come on, Skype, work with me, man. There we go. Okay, you gonna stay? All right, cool. I kept, like, jumping down something. I want to be able to see everybody. Like, okay. Everybody rolls at the very beginning of every turn, and you just line up your effort. That is kind of your action pool for the whole turn. So you're going to use that to attack, you're going to use it for initiative, defense, all the skills you want to use, all of that stuff. In addition to that, you also get one move you can do at a rank 0. All the effect charts is a 0, which is like what a person could do without much effort. So you can move once, and out of that, you can have one single action, which is only 1 die. That's in case you don't roll any sets, you can still attack, basically. So, those are restrictions there. So this guy is a son of a bitch, and he has 10 dice to roll. Which makes him way more powerful than any one of you, but equally as powerful as 2 of you, I found in my previous playtest. Because I had a bad guy called Fire God, and that one, who was about this powerful, and she died in 2 rounds worth by tanking 2 tank shells to the face, and then get head smashed in with a lead pipe. And you'd think the tank shells would have taken her out, but no, not really. Okay, so everybody gets to roll. Wow, this guy got a set of 4. Anyway, everybody gets to roll and line up their effort dice for the turn. So I'll show you how initiative bidding works. And 5 there.
Okay.
So if I'm just using my melon hammer, do I just roll my effort?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what the melon hammer does is every time you hit somebody with an attack, you add a d10's worth more damage.
Okay.
So you just continually smash them with it.
All right, I'm going to smash this guy with my melon hammer.
Yep. Weapons are interesting little beasts. You can use them once during your turn for free, and if you want to use them multiple times, you can do that, but it costs you prana. It's kind of like using a weaker version of a technique. And I found that out because the balanced weapon, anybody who has a sword as a balanced weapon, they're really like past the power curve. They increase your attack instead of increasing the add-on to the attack. So they're actually more powerful than the other weapons. And I was like, well, that sucks. They're way too powerful. But what I did was I just made them cost a little more for re-invoke, so they wind up being balanced if you continue using them. It's not exactly balanced, but I figure, there's a reason people choose swords over other weapons. So.
And a solitary 10 has no effect, right?
Well, it's a 0, so it's a really crappy.
Oh, so it's a 0 in this system. All right.
Yeah, it's not that it has no effect; it just has a crummy effect. Back in the day, if you used sets of zeros, it would be like getting an epic failure. So like something fantastic or weird would happen. And I don't have the energy for that shit. There's enough going on in combat, as you're about to see, that you don't need extra stuff going on.
All right.
Can I just say, it's a little bit tangential, but every single time that Brendan mentions the melon hammer, I keep on thinking of a melon baller, and just like using a giant one to cave somebody's skull in.
I keep thinking of Gallagher, is what I think of.
I just want to say to both of you, that's totally the wrong image for the melon hammer. I'm gonna do a quick internet search to show you just how impressive my melon hammer is.
Sorry for interrupting. Sorry.
I think the Gallagher reference was the truly painful remark.
That cut for a little bit there,
yeah. That was.
I held it. I thought it the first time you said it, but I held myself back.
No, you know what?
But...
One of the first images that came up for the melon hammer was somebody smashing a watermelon. I think with the melon hammer.
There you go.
Oh, and there's also a hammer that has a square watermelon on the end.
Fantastic! Oh my god,
Jesus Christ,
that's incredible.
The watermelon hammer, and that's the great thing is that you have water-based powers.
So I just need to cart around a bunch of melons, and then I can use all that untapped water for my water abilities.
Unlimited!
I can throw it at my enemies, and then when the melon hits their head, I can freeze it, and it'll encase them in frozen watermelon goo.
Yeah,
you're gonna watermelon into segments and then freeze them and use them as throwing knives.
No, you smash the watermelon and use your water powers to project the liquid out so fast the seeds will be bullets that they'll be moving so fast. No.
Irradiated bullets.
Smash a melon with a melon hammer and use the projected chunks of melon as a hammer. That's perfect. That's what
when you smash a melon with a melon hammer, the melon hammer repairs whatever damage it has taken up to this point.
Okay, I'm just gonna say Google is incredibly ignorant of wuxia because all of the top searches on this image search are just people smashing watermelons.
God. Well, that just made my day. Okay, so let's run you through combat. Combat, unlike real-time scenes, which are a little looser, as you guys could tell, combat is a very strict turn order because it's way faster. You're kind of like moving in slow motion, so you know all the detail stuff. So the first thing you do is you've already done. You rolled your effort and lined it all up. Next, everyone needs to bid for initiative. That's not a separate initiative roll. So this is going to be draining your resources for attacking and defending other stuff this turn. This guy has resources to spare. So what happens is, in this case, like say he's got a single 6 here. He's going to bid that one. So that gives him a 16 for initiative. That's his initiative. All you guys need to go around and see if you want to try to outbid him so you can go faster. Or just bid somewhere so you can go out faster than your friends, so there's not much of a point in that. If you don't want to, he'll seize initiative and go first, and so we'll kind of set the rhythm of the combat. And if you do, then you get to go first and whoop his ass. And the reason I made that take dice is because whenever you go before somebody, it kind of has the effect of turning all of their potential offense into defense because you're the one smashing them first. And it actually wound up being a lot more of a big deal than I thought it was going to be. Earlier versions of the system, you would roll for every time you attacked and every defense, so it was more of an equal match. But now that there's this more limited resource, the timing in which you use it is a lot more significant. So this guy, knowing that, decides to bid his 6 here to get a 16 for initiative, and you all get a chance to do it, and then we get another round until everyone's done with bidding.
I'm going to get a 7.
If you match somebody on initiative, you roll off. You both just do a single d10 to see if it's the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'm bidding 7.
Or that's an 8.
I should probably write this shit down, huh?
Do we have to bid, Joel?
You don't have to. You can skip if you want to. In which case, you'll just go after everybody who bid. All right, so I've got Adam, Brendan, Kenny, Steven? Was that one of them? One of you, Steven? Okay. I'm missing the last one. Sorry. I'm bad with names.
I'm Elliot. I've pissed off to run after the loot anyway, so.
I don't think I actually got introduced to you properly. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Elliot. You've been a lot of fun. You feel better?
Just think of the love interest in Scrubs.
I'd like to think I'm more attractive.
You'd be wrong.
Scrubs. Was Elliot the love interest?
Alright. Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. Alright, anybody else?
I can't remember. It's been so long.
I'm bidding a 6 to have a roll off against the Red Pirate.
Alright. Yeah, he's gonna stay at that 6. So if anybody else wants to bid, they can maybe push up or down. Otherwise, we'll just do some roll-offs. And it'll be me and Kenny. Have I got that right?
Yep.
Alright, so roll your d10 and see if you go faster than this guy. He gets a 1. So he doesn't do super
1.
We'll roll again. 9 this time.
I got a 6.
Wow.
Turn it upside down, Kenny!
Quickly! Before I notice.
You still have a chance!
Okay, so that means Adam is going to lead us off, so that's going to be fun.
Oh.
The first round, you get to zoom forward. This guy's like careening towards you, flying off the building.
Careening towards me, so he's in the air right now.
Yep.
Alright. Let's see.
So, doing stuff on your turn.
Yeah.
First of all, let's fill up your prana pools, which these would already technically be full. For every open chakra that you have a full 10 prana. So I think you actually have 20 because you're a Silver Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
You're an enlightened hero? Okay.
Yep.
So you have a prana pool of 20. That's just the amount of points you have to spend. When you spend them, they need to get replenished before you use them again. Open chakra also you have a replenish of 2 apiece. So in this case, you replenish 4 of those at the end of every one of your turns. So if you want to use any powers, it's much more discreetly tracked in action scenes, again, because they're much more focused. So that's the kind of pool you have to do that with. General stuff you can do is very similar to D&D 3.0. You can move. You can do an attack with a single die. You can do an attack with sets of dice. You can do as many of those as you want. You can do any actions that are allowed by your sets too. So any of the skills you want to do them on this scale, you can do them. So like in the case of, like, say, using senses to hide, you could do that. And as a matter of fact, I think you have techniques that allow you to kind of go invisible too. All of your techniques are available to you for their cost. If you can't afford one in one round, you can just put a bunch of prana on one and charge it up like in Dragon Ball Z, and then spend the rest in subsequent rounds to get it used. I think that everyone should be able to afford pretty much every technique they have within a round or so. That's kind of where I put the power level of most starting characters.
I am out of time, so I am just going to decide this whole fight is beneath me and telekinetically just rise above this entire combat. So
Lovely.
Good luck, guys.
Been good, Adam.
Out of random pebbles on the street, and then just sit there floating in it, observing the masses.
Continue.
Adam, I'll catch you later.
What's that, Brandon?
I'll catch you later, Adam.
Yeah, definitely.
See ya, Adam. Sorry for wasting time on it. Oh, bye.
I think this has been reasonably tight. Actually, we're on a schedule.
Well, it's the time limit more than anything. Yeah. We didn't start until 20 minutes in, so.
Yeah, so I mean, this was already a little bit tight, and I'm kind of glad because I prepped 17 times as much as we just saw.
If you want, we can hold it here and we can resume next week.
All right, we are going live now, so.
Okay, outstanding. Should I just start and dive us right back into it?
Yeah, the only thing is, do we have our character sheets? Do we have our information for our characters?
Yeah, are we actually prepped? I got if I could pan this camera down, there's just all this stuff out in front of me. I got all the different wars for all the different factions over here. I've got my notes for this campaign, which again are ridiculously copious. I've got the monsters over there in the corner, in case you guys go north of the Demon City. Fingers crossed! Over here, I've got the Tyrant's character sheet, I've got the weapons chart, I've got the effect charts into that. I'm very prepared. Who's got a character sheet ready?
Well, can you send the remember those character books that you sent us before? Can you send those in the chat?
Oh, Lord, give me a second. Let me navigate Skype's awful interface. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. I think this little picture icon is what it wants me to push, so let's do that. Okay, I pushed it, and my computer is... Oh, there it is. Okay. So, let's see here. Go to the desktop. Just going to narrate you guys through it. Thank you. I'm lost without these directions. Okay, so there's the title characters. Oh, no, maybe not. There we go. Let's open that and send it. Make sure everybody gets it.
Let's see, did it go through?
I think I actually have to hit this button too. Yeah, because it shows it to me, and then I have to hit the send button to send it. That's lovely. I'm glad that's how that works. I know, Skype. You guys all still have the link to the Lone Wolf Fist playtest document, which I have continually failed to put on the Patreon when people give me money for it. I really should do. Well, I've got the old one there, because it's like a 300-word document there. But then I had a little crisis, and then I had to take a little break for a couple of weeks. I got back to it, and I was like, since I had a few weeks to not think about it, and my subconscious worked on it, I was like, oh, hey, it would really help us out a lot, considering the playtest I had, if we made all the rules work differently a little bit, depending on the kind of speed of scene you were in. That way, there would be a reason to want those slower, less dangerous scenes. And it turns out the best way to do that is to totally reorder, the way I introduced everything in the book. So I was like, oh, no. So my project for the last couple of weeks has been trying to reorder that and write the little missing rules chunks. Which, to me, it's looking pretty good so far. There's a few little chunks I'm missing. I don't have the Gapakala, which I really want to do. I don't have, let me see what else. I'm missing the montage scene rules. There's a couple other little chunks here and there, just little bitty things. I think it was the novel is missing. I was like, oh, I should probably work on that. Anyway, I sent the characters to you guys in Word form. I know it looks like a...
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there we go. And that's a Google Docs link, it looks like. I'm assuming that's the Lone Wolf, this one. Oh,
Yeah,
here it is.
that's what you shared last time.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I can actually put this on the Patreon while I'm doing this, but I think instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mention it, and then I'll just put this edited playtest thing that Britton finalizes on the Patreon along with the link, and be like, guess what, guys? Thanks for the money. There's been a lot of thanks for the money in this. So people keep doing this thing, which I don't know how to feel about, where like I put a suggested price in for the Dancing Act 1, which I'm not running you guys through because that would have been way too easy. But like the suggested price is $4.99. I think $5 is a reasonable amount to pay for like what's like 50-page odd document. It's just an intro of it, you know, little leaflet thing. And people are paying me like $20+ for a free download. So it's like you don't have to pay anything. You can just hit the button and get it. So I don't know who those people are, but I love them, and I'm a little intimidated by them. so yeah, that's all paper.
I mean, I think it probably comes from just trying to, like, you know, compensate the time put into the effort into the project in the first place, you know?
Well, that's the thing about
indie devs. Yeah.
like, well, that is really thoughtful, I think. But like I have enough business training that like I've got a sheet for it for all the costs and everything. So it's not like, given a 1 year or so time scale, we really didn't spend that much on this particular act. Like, a little bit of it was me paying for Christoph Robelski art, a little bit of it was me paying for Frederick Davis art, a little bit of it was David paying for the original editing by Albert Lim, and then like everything else was just, hey guys, there's 4 of us on the team, we all have different skills, let's just work and record what we would have charged ourselves for that at the lowest cost, and then just put it on the sheet, we'll pay ourselves out at the end of the project whenever we start getting money for it. So, like, that $4.99, like, granted the amount of downloads that we have, and granted the average amount that people gave us for that, over a year's time frame, getting the money back we put into it, including our labor, really is pretty likely. And getting a little, like, 10-odd% chunk of profit on top of that we're going to split amongst the team, that's not unlikely. So I deeply appreciate people throwing that average up, but, like, here's $50 for your $5 book. But it's not actually necessary. Ideally, this will appeal to a general audience and won't require that kind of direct patronage. The reason I have a Patreon is so that I can get startup costs in advance of something a little more proper, like a Kickstarter, or like, I don't know, a loan or something. I don't really want to take out an interest-bearing loan on something like this, because, like, even...
Well, perhaps face it as a possible investment as well.
Oh yeah, no, their money is right now 100% being pushed towards editors and layout artists and proper artists. So like, I'm paying people that freelance for the team right now out of their. So it is an investment that is making this happen. This is super interesting competition to begin our Kung Fu Punch game.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Trying to get some use out of it.
We left off in the middle of a fight last time, didn't we?
Well, you left off in the middle of a fight that I believe Adam's character picked. Didn't he, like... Was that with someone else? Who
Yeah.
Fight with this?
Yeah, it was Adam's character, because he was playing as...
Okay, so do you guys want to vanish into anonymity as he's hacked to death by the super powerful sword guy, or do you want to fight him?
Well, I've run off to... I can't remember exactly where I ran off to. But I managed...
To the south. Oh no, Kenny dropped again. It's probably gone. Oh, no, he's back.
And I'm back. This is the last time, like, there's no point
Love
in
you, Kenny.
every 2 or 3 minutes.
The sacrifices you make for us.
We'll miss you, Ken. You're a cool character.
But I was running off somewhere because I think that I'd heard that he had this giant mech thing or something that he was kind of like bringing up, and I ran over there to see if I could possibly nab it.
So you were bolting towards that. It's several miles away through dense jungle, so it's going to be a bit.
I'm pretty sure that I got a very good roll for it or something.
You did
beforehand. Yeah.
So you'll be bolting for that during this combat, such as it is. How about the rest of y'all? Let me see. Because right now what it looks like is going to happen is he's going to soar down, and because I don't have Adam's character, I'm just going to have him kind of like hacked to death. Unless you guys really want to interfere. Usually what would be happening here is I'd be running thrilling combat, including all characters. But I don't, like, okay, so this guy, like, spoiler alert, really mechanically powerful, and I've only playtested characters of this power a few times. I don't actually know how satisfying this fight's going to be. So I might kill some of your guys, or you might curb stomp him. I have no read for it at all. Already got one character down because he's not here, and then another character bolting off to steal a mech, which, thankfully, I did prep a little bit for. So if you want to steal it now, you totally can. Mind you, it's going to be... okay, well, I won't spoil it. Get there, we'll see what happens. In any event. So, everyone have their sheets? You ready to rock?
I got mine right here.
Alright, cool. So let's do a little quick recap. Basically, you guys had wandered through the desert and into a dense, radioactive jungle, found your way to something equivalent to civilization, found delicious, fleshy fruit to eat, found the leader of this place, who's some sort of like crazy military leader guy, and is apparently some sort of fallen knight. Adam, in his infinite wisdom and foresightedness, decided to pick a loud and public fight with them. The guy dove down off a building, sheathed in magical lightning to come and kill you. So that's more or less the entire recap. Now, Adam did initially get initiative on this, but it looks like Kenny and he were tied, and we had a roll-off, and it looks like Kenny is one step behind him. So, unless anyone has any objections, I'll just start off right in the middle of the combat.
That's cool.
Okay, cool. So, we've already got initiative established. Let's talk about how combat works. I really wish that I had something like the Roll20 thing, where I could show you guys these dice in a big line. You'll just have to believe me. But yeah, so he has an impressive effort pool of 10, which means he's got a really big pile of dice here. He's got a 0, 4 1s, which is the highest set I've ever naturally rolled for this game, a 3, a 5, and 2 8s. He had initiative dice.
Looks like he just lost Kenny.
Oh, that's too bad.
We're definitely going to have to find a replacement for Skype, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Discord's our next go-to, and I've been trying to make that a thing.
What's just to clarify, what is the recording situation on Discord?
I think it shouldn't be much different to Skype, as far as I'm aware, because I've got some friends who do live streams and stuff, etc., and they moved from Discord to Skype. The main problem that they had was recording their own camera for the purposes of the live stream. That being said, otherwise recording audio and all those kinds of things, no problem. Okay. Very similar to Skype, and similar programs work as well. Okay. The main thing is though is that if you want to preserve video cams, then you have to set it up as like a private call. You can invite people into a group, and you can use that to keep on messages and all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay, yeah, it seems like it would be a pretty easy switch then once we learn the interface. So that's good news. If only we managed to do that beforehand. Oh well. 3. At this point, he actually might be able to kick your guys' asses, so let's find out. Anyway, so when you're doing stuff on your turn, proactively, you get a single thing you can do with a set of 1 die. So if you wanted to throw out a relatively weak attack, you could take his 0 or his 3 or his 5 and just use that to attack. Now, it's a relatively weak rank 1 attack, but you can do it. And the reason that's useful is because a lot of times you want to kind of bait someone's dice out of them without really risking much of your own. It's really useful for stuff like that. There's a lot of kind of surprising strategic depth to things like that. In addition to that, if you want to do more than just that one thing, you have to have sets. And you can either use any naturally rolled sets, so his set of 4 1s, which you could break up into sets of 2 1s and 2 1s, or a set of 2 8s. So that's, right now he's got 3 actions he can do just with his natural stuff. But the real way you usually get actions is that you purchase them with your prana. You take one of your techniques, spend its prana cost, and almost all of them are at least rank 1 or like sometimes rank 2. And if you match those with your dice, which it's the same thing as rolling dice, you're just kind of buying them in this case, you can get a lot of different attacks. So a lot of times, especially if you go first like this guy is doing, you'll use you'll take your higher facing dice and you'll charge them all up with a technique each, and just have this onslaught of attacks you can hit somebody with. And it's really hard to answer that, especially early on. Now, what I found in previous playtesting, which I'm a little bit concerned about, is this can lead to a situation where if a guy like this gets an alpha strike, he can take out a weaker character before they have a chance to do anything. That's not really an ideal, fun situation for that character. The overall combat is really tense after that, but it sort of sucks for that one player. So I'm not going to have him do that, even though I think strategically that's probably the clever thing to do. I'm going to have him just act like a general asshole, and I guess just kind of try to wreck all of y'all. So let's see what kind of powers he has. Alright, let's see. I actually printed out my Golden Lions techniques from their lore, which I need to find a better way to reference these in-game. This is a problem that I had when I ran Exalted too, where there were these big lists of powers, and you could whip out your one giant book to figure out what any one character did for any given action. That's a little tough. And they solved that with charm cards in Exalted, where you just print out something that looks a little like this, and it would just have power sets on it. So that was relatively better, but still not ideal. There are less powers in this game, but there's still that reference difficulty. Yeah, how would this guy do? Do you find that in Wandering Heroes too, Brendan, or is a lot of stuff
big time. Well, so what I find with that is number one, it gets easier with time. So the longer people play the game, the less of an issue that is, because people are just more familiar with their own abilities. They're more on the ball in terms of they know what abilities to take out when they're about to attack and stuff. For the GM, it's a workload because you have to if you're a GM who preps everything in advance, it's not a big issue because you'll have all the techniques that you know you're going to use. If you're more like me and you tend to not know how everything's going to go in the evening, and some random NPC could show up that you weren't planning on, then you have to become really adept at key searching the PDF or knowing what the major techniques are.
As an external kind of accessory that could be added into the games and stuff, especially for a game like Wandering Heroes of Oakgate, where you do have a large amount of techniques, but it's not necessarily something like Dungeons and Dragons with all the different spells and stuff and all the different levels. You could potentially have like a flashcard kind of system where you've got an image of somebody using the technique, the name of the technique, the effect of it and stuff, etc. And then on the back of it, possibly some good techniques to pair it with, or possible vulnerabilities for the technique, and that can be used by players or by GMs or whatever, just kind of if GM wants to, they can give out the technique cards to their players, to whoever's paying them, just so they've got something quick to refer to, or, etc.
I think it's a good idea, especially whenever, all the powers and all the kung fu are in the general lore sheets in the character creation section, so, just having, a little sheet of printable cards along with your character sheet.
Printable cards as well is really useful, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a reasonable solution.
But I will say, Joel, on the GM side is where you're going to lose people more than on the player side. That's where I've actually been told by people, my GM doesn't want to run the game because it's too complicated to look up things. Now, I've also met people that love that level of complexity. You know what I mean? So it's balanced out by the fact that you have to pick a side. You basically have to say it's going to be simple or it's going to be hard. And
there's two parts to it actually, because there's complexity of the actual thing, and then there's accessibility. Right?
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
So it may be very complex rule system, but the accessibility is very accessible because it's accurately indexed and stuff, and whatever thing you're using it with has kind of hyperlinks or whatever, so you can just very quickly
navigate. That's what I think that I'm concerned about mostly, because if you have 7 different lores of 7 different factions, and each one has its own set of kung fu, going through that can be difficult unless it was color coded or really well laid out.
And what I've heard from there was one case where GM just didn't want to run the system anymore because it was getting too difficult. And I think even if I had indexed everything and like Adam put together that technique thing that we have that makes it pretty easy to find them, I think even if I had given them that, it would have still frustrated the person, because I think what they didn't like was every time a new NPC that they weren't expecting showed up, they had to look up a technique that they weren't familiar with and implement it. And so I think even if I could streamline the looking up process, it was oh damn, another new technique that I don't know coming into play. So, but I do think accessibility is where you want to put your energy if you have.
Yeah. I think, and it's more stuff that I can force Vic to do at money point. Money, right?
Well, another thing to do with accessibility is that there's always like third-party things, for example. So like, accessibility for Dungeons and Dragons has always been affected by they're stuck in the books and you have to get through them and all that kind of stuff. But then, there are resources online, such as even like, that D&D's put up now, etc., where you can search through them for the different spells, and just searching it's a lot faster than, searching through the book.
Well, my strategy with accessibility, as far as looking stuff up, has always been, if the only person that really needs the rulebook is the GM, that it's going to be in their lap, Yeah. So, like, as long as it's easy to look stuff up, I'm not really worried. Because there's going to be a monster section. There's going to be
I'll tell you where you'll run into issues is when you have NPCs that have specific abilities in one section of the book, and then the person has to keep going back to find those abilities. But the worst situation is when I have 3 NPCs on 3 different pages, and then I have to also go and look up all of their techniques. That's when it gets challenging.
Yeah, and that's what I'm running into even with this playtest, is like, there's just too much text in a given technique to put it anywhere on even a whole sheet.
What you can do...
Like, your own power sheet.
Here's what I did in Ogregate. You can see this if you look at some of the... I didn't do it consistently, so it's not particularly useful, but I started to do it more consistently as the line went on. You come up with a really condensed text description of a technique for the purposes of putting it into NPC entries.
I stole that from you, come to think of it. So you have to tell me, I already stole that, Bo.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty handy.
So much I rob you. Looking for the RPG industry, folks. Okay, so he moves a mountain's worth of stone with a magic power.
All right. So what does he move exactly?
As he's falling towards you guys, he gestures with his hands, and like just these walls of raw stone start erupting out of the ground, and the pavement starts cracking. And he basically makes like an igloo, like a Thunderdome igloo thing around you guys, preventing escape as his army tries to scatter out of it. Some of them do, and the rest are hideously crushed in that. But it's legit like this whole area is now a huge Thunderdome you guys have to fight in. So no more running away for you, coward. Yeah, there's a huge just like...
Have I been trapped inside of it?
You have been trapped inside of it prior to that. He's higher in the roster than you.
Is he inside of it too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's Thunderdome and you bitches, you gotta deal with that.
Is there any water in the vicinity?
Yeah, actually, whenever he does that, a bunch of the pipes and the underwater, like, catches and basins break open, so there's, like, water spraying out from ruptured mains and, like, leaking down little streams and what have you, so it's actually very wet in here now.
Is everybody wet?
What's that?
Are we all essentially wet from the...
Oh, I do have something to mention. I'm sorry for being the tricksy, rule player and all that kind of stuff, but... I think last time what I'd done was I used leopard and monkey action to make sure that I could move before my foe took any other actions.
Oh, you're right. I think leopard and monkey is defensive, so you actually would use that on his action. That's both a defense, in this case you would need the defense, and it's also a jump away. That's really cool and useful. So the real question is, can you clear Thunderdome before it closes around you? And I think you're at rank 5, which means, yeah, you totally can. So
I believe it was, yeah.
Inside. So yeah, you are outside Thunderdome, leaving your friends to their fate.
Fuck you guys! I'm gonna make a mech.
You're gonna be back the fucking mech.
Well, I do want to say that one of my positive things is recovering a helpful artifact of the ancient world, and if a giant mech ain't that, I don't know what is.
One of my negative things is rely on another rather than your own strength, so I don't give a fuck that he's pissing off.
Good on you, Nuke.
He'll be back. This will be great.
So how does it? So just to be clear, he's done this thing, but Elliot managed to escape. Is that the?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And so whose turn is it now?
It is still his turn. He's just going to launch a single attack at one of you. Since there's only 2 of you left, let me see. We've got Cave Buffalo. Steven, right? I love Nuke. She was in another playtest of mine that I really greatly enjoyed. Oh man, so
one thing I'm a little unclear on is how exactly you use techniques in combat.
Oh, I'll show you. Let me demonstrate an offensive technique right now. I'll have him attack you. So thank you for volunteering. So in this case, he's just going to hit you with a weaker level technique. 'Cause he's only got 8. He actually only has 8 left for his stuff. He's going to take, let's go with this 5 here. And hit you with some magic. Here we go. Nope, that's way too powerful. Just a second, I gotta find a reasonable technique. There's gotta be some kind of just hit them with a sword technique I wrote. Surely I wasn't this much of a pawn.
Just make him slap out with a regular palm.
Let's see. Blade the Master's hands. Well, I've got, a lot of the weaker techniques in this style give you a lot of versatility, but don't really make you more powerful exactly. Like, Blade the Master's hand is as close as I've got to just like an offensive technique at that level. So that kind of sucks. Let's see. Expert. Boulder and landslide motion. Shaping earth. Earth current meditation. Makes you zany. I really don't have a lot of hit them with a sword attack in the sword-based magic style. That's a problem. Well. New plan. He's going to use grass cutting attack with his last 8 magic. Oh boy. That's fine. I've got a giant pile of d10s. A couple are going to get swallowed by the floor. So, grass cutting attack. Cost 8, so he's going to spend his 8 remaining prana on that, so it's totally empty. He made a mountain and he's using this. The way this works is you go down to... usually you would look at the facing of this one. This one is random. What that means is that instead of having a set facing, you get to roll dice. In this case, it's 3d10. The resulting facings may empower any attack or defense with a balanced weapon, that's swords and things like that, until the end of the round, when they are discarded. So these are kind of like getting to roll even more dice than you usually would. So I got a 4, a 6, and an 8. I can use the 8 with my 8s. That's good. Let's see. I can use the 4 with the 6, though. They not use their focus or for any other purpose. Non-defense bonus actions and power must be at least rank 2 as usual. Okay. So what this does is it basically generates 3 more dice that, if I can pair them, increase in attack. Well, I happen to roll the 3d10. I rolled an 8, which I can pair with my set of 8s to get a rank 3 attack. So he's going to use a sword and hit you with it. This is rank 3 facing 8. So what's happening right now is you've got a 38 coming at you. If you choose to do nothing, what that will do is kill you. If you just want to take it on the chin without defending at all, just like see if your meat and bones can absorb it, you can spin out your health levels. There's 10 HP per health level, and you can try to reduce it to 0 with that. If you can't reduce it to 0, it's still killing.
My Skype crashed.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, I crashed after you said you'd hit me with it.
Okay. Alright, so if you choose to do nothing, you dive. If you want to buy it down with the hit points in your health boxes, each of your health boxes, I think you have 5, has 10 HP in it. So that can just reduce it by 1 each. That can injure you, but you will survive it. If you want to defend against it, you take a set of your own. So whatever you rolled last time, whatever dice you have, and you just compare that to it. You can only use 1 set to defend against a single attack. But what that'll do is it'll reduce his attack by that amount. Whatever's left, you might take as damage or it might kill you.
I can't remember for sure because I'm pretty sure I took a picture of my phone which doesn't want to turn on.
Okay, what's your effort? We'll just roll it again.
But I'm pretty sure the only set I had was a set of 2 3s.
Alright. Well, he's at a 38. You could block it with your 23. But I think you have some defensive techniques. So let me look it up. Because you have all the novice level ones for your style, and you should have a single expert level one.
I have Fire Fiend's Attitude.
Yeah.
If I charge defiable armor bluntly attacks.
Beautiful. Okay, so in this case, you want to use a defensive technique. So you want to, whenever you're scanning the different ones you have, looking out at the keywords, there's really 2 that you should ever concern yourself with: offensive, which means you can only attack with it, and defensive, which means you can only defend with it. Fire Friend's Attitude is a really good one for defense, and I think your other one, your expert level one, is something like Dragon's Breath or Afterburner Fist, which is offense.
Yeah, Burning Piston Strike. Would that help in that situation with the dodging?
Yeah, it is versatile, so it can. Versatile is offense or defense. So that's rank 0 to 5, so your set of 2 3s would pair with it too. It's the same thing as basically using 3 prana to buy another die of facing 3. And you can just combine that with your other ones. Very straightforward. Now it's rank 1, so that's the number of dice effectively that you buy with it. More powerful ones, for example, what would you say you had Afterburner Fist was the expert level you had? That's a rank 2. So you would effectively buy 2 dice with that one if you use that technique. It's a weird way of describing it, but it is a little unintuitive at first. Anyway, so let's say that you don't want to get killed by this 38 coming at you.
Okay.
Let's say you're really not a fan of that. Okay, I'm going to use your Burning Piston Strike. Cool. So you spend 3 prana, and you take your 23 you've got, your 2 3s, and you just add another 3 to it. You get 33. Now you're beefy as hell. And it also does stuff in the effect. So whatever the effect is happens too. I don't actually know what that is. You move with startling speed, blocking, dodging, throwing leg sweeps, or punching with machine gun swiftness. Oh, that's just fluff. It doesn't actually do anything super powerful. But you get to do that, and instead of taking a ridiculous 38, you reduce it by 33 and only take 5 damage, or half the health box. Which I think is pretty good, considering he just swiped at you with a magic sword, cackling with lightning.
Nicely done.
Indeed. So, did you do that? Because I was all talking in hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just mark off 5 damage from your first health box. That's not even enough to injure you. Oh, actually, you don't even have to do that. Because there's another thing that all characters have that I totally failed to put in here. They have something called Aura. Think of Aura as the kind of magical shield you have before you start losing health. I think that everyone has 5, except for enlightened characters who have 6. It's just like hit points. It'll immediately come back at the end of combat once you've rested for a minute. But during combat, it's really useful for not taking those critical damages. So, like, you could just be like, I'm just going to use my 5 from that and not get hurt at all. If you want to. So everybody has some aura they can spend to defend themselves, too. There's actually a lot of layers between you and dying in this game, because it can be pretty lethal otherwise. Anyway, so that'll... Let me see. I think that's going to conclude his turn. He's only got 3 dice left. He's all done venting his spleen on you. Use all of his magic. So yeah, he's just gonna chill. He's done doing stuff. And let me see. Ooh, looks like I've got Brendan next, followed by Stephen and Elliot. So Brendan, it is your turn to do stuff. Right. Mr. Water Buffalo. You keep asking about the water.
Yeah,
the water. I'm super into it.
So I have 2 options here. I'm not sure which one is the best. One, I have Water Charming Mantra, and I have Razor Tipped Waves. And both seem like they would be applicable when water is raining on everybody. So with Water Charming Mantra, the thought I had was I could maybe try to use that to direct a bunch of water onto him to freeze and encase him. But if the water's already raining all over him, maybe razor-tipped waves would be enough. I don't know if that's a powerful enough weapon because it sounds like it's fairly weak. So I just wanted some clarification on how much I would expect razor-tipped waves to actually harm somebody before I use it on this guy, because he sounds like a bit of a titan.
He is a bit of a titan. Let me see. Razor-tipped waves. What do you do? That makes weapons, doesn't it?
Yeah, create a weapon or small, simple item out of water. Solid items are as brittle as ice. If you create a weapon, you gain its bonus once for free, and you may levitate and control it with your will. So I guess I'd have to kind of turn it into one weapon. Is that the...
Yeah, and you can do that more than once. You can use the same technique as many times as you want in your turn, as long as you can afford it, just not on the same action.
All right.
I
guess I'll go with the Water Charming Mantra then and try to encase him in ice.
That's a cool one. Alright. So, let's see here. Looks like that one is cost 3, so it's going to cost 3 of your delicious prana.
Alright, let me see.
And
how much prana do I have?
6. What's that?
How much prana do I have?
You should start with 10.
Okay.
And you're going to recover 2 every round. Now, if you want to take a spirit action, you can actually open up one of your slumbering chakra and get more. The amount you get depends on how powerful that spirit action is.
I would get more prana if I did that?
Yeah, the way it works... Actually, I should have had him do that on his turn, but let me run you through how he would have done that if I hadn't been stupid. So the way that works is you take a set of at least 2, or if you have Spirit Mastery, a set of 1. It has to be at least a rank 2 action. You say, I'm going to open up one of my Slumbering Chakra. The rank that the action is how much recovery that's going to have, and that's going to influence how big the pool is going to be on it. It's basically, pool is recovery times 5.
All right, well, for simplicity's sake, maybe I'll just try using the technique plainly this time, just so I understand how that works. And
let's do this one at a time.
And if I survive the next round, then I'll try doing the opening of the chakra.
Okay, so what Water Charming Mantra does is basically you spend 3 of your 10 prana, and you get a die that is facing either 3, 4, 5, or 6. So you just put that right there near your other dice. And you can combine that with any other dice that you want to make this a more powerful grab attack.
And I get to select the number that it's facing?
Yes, you're buying this technique, so you can select any number in that range. 3, 4, 5, or 6 in this case.
And I can do it after, I can select the number after I roll, or do I have to do it before I roll?
We've already got all your dice in front of you, so you've already rolled all the dice you're going to roll this turn.
I haven't rolled any dice yet.
That's unfortunate, because everyone should have already.
Oh.
The way it works is you roll at the beginning of your turn, and you just you peel off some for initiative, and then your remaining dice are what you have as a resource to act for the rest of the turn.
Okay, so what do I need to roll to make that happen?
Well, in this case, you would be rolling your effort pool.
So 60-10.
Yep, you just roll them. Line them up.
All right. And so then I'm looking for sets, right?
Yep, just line them up from smallest number to highest, and any ones that have the same facing, the same number on them, just put them on top of one another. So
okay,
you know which sets you have.
And are other numbers still useful, or only facing numbers useful?
What do you mean by that?
Well, do I only care about the sets, or do I only care about...
Oh, you care about all of them. Because the ones that aren't sets, you might use for defense, or to line with techniques or something.
They still might have... Okay, all right. And so, so then I can take this other die that I'm buying, and I can set that to anything from 3 to 4 to 5. So I'm going to set that to 5.
Okay.
Which will give me a set of 1s and a set of 5s.
Beautiful.
And so now what do I do?
Okay. Well, since you're trying to attack him and grab him with the water, we're just going to look under the effect of this and see what it can do precisely.
Okay.
So the effect says you can command or transform water. So let me see what that means. Command means you can levitate, shape, and mold a volume of water using the final rank of this technique as a power effect. And what that's referencing there, and I should probably make this more obvious, is that you'll look at the power effect chart to see how much you could have lifted with just raw power, and you're just going to kind of translate that into the volume of water you can move around.
Okay.
So it's like it's 2. So looking at rank 2 for the power effect chart, which, if I did this correctly, would be actually I did do this correctly. I printed it out so I can just look at it. Actually, I think I have the older version of the power effect chart, so you're going to be a little more powerful than this. But yeah, rank 2. It looks like you can lift about 400 pounds or 150 kilos. Which is the equivalent of a full drum of oil or 2 adult humans with that. So that's a pretty significant volume of water you can lift up with that.
Yeah, and I want to turn that all into ice encasing him.
Yep, and that's going to be the transform action, which says freeze/thaw an equal amount of water surface on contact, up to 10 inches? Yeah, 10 inches in thickness. So that's a pretty solid sheet you're going to be encasing him in. This can be used to make ice bridges across lakes or freeze a flow below the surface of a pond, for instance. In this case, you're just going to make him into a glacier, right?
Yep.
All right. So what that's effectively going to be is an attack, a very special kind of attack, which is called grab. Basically, rather than doing direct damage to this guy, if you're able to successfully grab him, he can't move or do anything almost at all until he's released from that, aside from defend himself in some circumstances. So you're going to launch that at him, and he's got to defend against it. So it looks like you said that was a 25 that he was going to throw at him? Did you, summon the water up to grab him and freeze it?
So that was a what? That I didn't catch the number there.
Oh, 25, you got a set of 2 5s.
I have a set of 2 5s, yeah. So that's what I would use, is a set of 2 5s?
Okay, so your grab attack, yep, that's right.
I just had a funny thought for a, prolonged attack through using this kind of technique. When ice freezes, it obviously expands a bit, right? So you could just repeatedly, like, thaw out and refreeze water in his nasal cavity, so as to make it progressively expand and drill out a passageway straight into his brain and lobotomize him.
That is the most horrible thing that is absolutely going to happen in a game now. That's why I love that kind of, like, that broader description, because you can do anywhere from I freeze him with a block of ice to I lobotomize him with ice.
So well,
it just take longer.
Well, if any moisture on his body is fair game, we could just like freeze his heart, right, or freeze his eyeballs and cause them to shatter.
Well, you see, here's where I go with it, because like his own blood and stuff, etc., is like going to be throbbing with his own power. So I'd imagine that would like interfere with it, but using the like water ice to just gradually bore up into his like, brain, unless he can get himself out of the situation. I mean, I'd assume it would take a long time to constantly unfreeze, freeze it, unfreeze, freeze it, etc. Like, you see, that to me just seems like a more secure way of securing a death, but it requires, like, setup.
Mechanically,
what
Elliot's describing mechanically would work for that movie we just saw, where the snakes are burrowing in the guy's body and she's in control.
Yeah, it would. It's going to be a fun discussion, by the way. I freaking loved Battle Wizards. It was really good. So,
it's a great title.
Yeah. Anyway, so...
sorry, I found the picture.
Trying to defend himself. Oh, what's that?
I found the picture now. I was wrong. I didn't have 2 3s. I had 2 7s, so we'll roll with it.
Well, sorry about that. Didn't mean to count you. Let's see.
It's my fault. I was convinced it was 3.
Alright, it's your phone's fault, Steve.
It is your phone's fault. I blame technology squarely. Okay, so let's see what kind of I think this is a very defensive style. So let's see.
I blame Y2K.
Yeah, he's got Heaven Gold Illumination. Let's see if this will work. It's facing 0 to 5. Oh, it costs Prana. He doesn't have any Prana. Just got to do his normal stuff. Yeah, he blew all of his Prana wad, making a mountain for you guys to fight him. He's totally defenseless.
Joel, not to cause a catastrophe here, but also in relation to that discussion, is it possible for us to end this at 5:45 so that we can jump into that discussion?
Jeez, I think we should be done by 5:45, shouldn't we?
Well, it's already 5:20.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're saying 5 for your. Yeah, it's 4 here. I was like, oh, I got plenty of time. Oh, no, I don't.
If we need to divide this into 3 parts, we can.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I think if we get to the end of this combat where you guys break this guy's head against a rock or something, that's a pretty satisfactory conclusion. Maybe not amazing, but it's all right.
Unless he backs our heads onto rocks.
We'll find out. Well, he's about to get frozen, because the most he can defend himself with is this 5, which would make it 15, which...
Would he... No, he wouldn't have recovered any prana.
Not yet. No, he can't do it until the end of the round. So strategically, this is a really good move, Brendan. Now, he is going to try to swipe it with his Cackling Lightning Sword with this 5, which turns into a 15, because it's a single set of 1 with facing 5, which reduces it from 25 to nearly 10. However, unfortunately, that still means he's encased in a rank 1 bodysuit of frozen liquid. And he's like, as you capture him with that. So good on you, Brendan. He is grabbed. And in future rounds, remember, you have control of that water, so you can throw him around with it, or throw more water onto him, all kinds of great stuff.
I think I'm gonna send him smashing his head into my melon hammer is what I'm gonna do.
And remember, it's still your turn. You can do that now if you want to.
Oh, can I use my set of 1s to do that?
The melon baller.
Can I use my set of 1s to send him crashing face first into my melon hammer?
Yeah, why not? It's still gonna. I mean, like, you've still got control of this water, so you can just be like, aha!
I'm just gonna. You know what? I'm gonna have him come forward to me, and I'm gonna just smash him right across the jaw.
That sucks. All right, so that's still gonna be an attack on your part. So get me another set that you want to hit him with.
The set of 1s is what I have remaining.
Set of 1s. Okay, that's a 21 to his freaking face. He can defend with a 13. That's still gonna hurt because melon hammers are heavy weapons. So the way that works is, and I believe I upgraded this recently, I believe it's you roll a d10 and add that to the damage that you do. So you got 21, he's got 13, that's a difference of 8.
I got a 9. I got a 9.
Alright. I was just going to say,
so you add that to 8 and get 17 damage. Jesus, that hurts.
And what if you'd encased him in ice, and then used more ice to like create a large protuberance up above his chest that you could smash with a melon ruler, just create extra pressure on his chest and try and cave it in.
That could work too. I think what's my guy's name? Cave Buffalo is not. If you saw a picture of Cave Buffalo, that seems like it's slightly above his level of intellect to devise.
Yeah, Kazuki didn't draw him smart.
Yeah.
Cave Buffalo. Alright. Well, he is going to use
that's prejudice, you know, that's just assuming things based on his looks.
You know, that is true.
I also
Maybe
designed the
He
entire
could be a genius, well, you know.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Joel?
I did design the entire character, you know, aside from the actor. But yeah, that is pretty prejudiced of me. So you smash him in the face. Unfortunately, there's only a small trickle of blood, even though you hammer him with this thing. You do punch through 17 points of his aura, which is like the magical chi energy defending him. So he's down to 8 from 25. This guy's bad news. That's a good hit.
Okay. All right.
So are you all done whooping this guy's ass, Brennan?
Unless I can use this 2, 4, or 7, I think I'm done.
I would just save him for now. I'll teach you some stuff about saving them. We'll all learn together. It'll be great.
Isn't that just using open chakras?
You could, but you have to have at least a rank 2.
Well, sorry, no, focus slots even, sorry.
Oh yeah, you could put him in a focus slot too.
How many focus slots do you have, Brenda?
Let me see. I have 1 focus slot. So what does that allow me to do?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, you could take one of the dice rolls that you've got, and I think it could be any of the ones, even if you've used it during your round.
No, it's only ones remaining.
Only ones remaining, okay. And you can pop it into one of your focus slots to preserve it for the next round. Yeah. I believe you wouldn't be able to re-roll that effort die next round, though.
No, you get to roll all your effort dice. And
you still get to roll all your effort dice as well. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, focus is rad. But it's kind of a slow burn thing. It doesn't really happen in the first turn.
Okay, I'm impatient, so we'll move on to Steven's turn.
Okay, let's see what Steve's got.
Okay, so how much prana how do we tell how much prana we've got?
You've got 10 prana at the start.
Okay,
the prana is the cost of the technique, and you recover 2 per turn at the end of the turn.
Okay, so I should... Okay, yeah, so I've used 3 so far, so... I've got a single 9, so can I use Fire Discipline Motion, because that's rank 1?
As long as the facing allows for a 9, then yeah.
Yeah?
I think Fire Discipline is good too. So yes.
That's when I just basically go all Avatar, Last Airbender, Fire, Spending, Punch.
Oh yeah, it is very much Avatar The Last Airbender. I stole so much from them.
I love that show so much. So.
Well, every silent here is based on Avatar or Fist of the North Star, so you're in good company. Like, you just use a waterbender technique, like exactly like the Water Tribe would have done it.
I think Steve just froze. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's too bad.
Oh no, he has, yeah.
Although I was just geeking out. It's not fair.
That's one of the more interesting freezes.
I think Kenny passed on something to Steve.
yeah, he infected me. He didn't wash his hands before he joined the conversation.
That's what I thought.
Okay, yeah, so I punch fire at him.
Yay, punch fire! Alright, let's see how that works. Fire Friend's Attitude. Let's see. Oh, no, Fire Discipline Motion. That's right, you can just go poof and do Firebend Punch at him. Blast a gout of flame from your striking limb. Creates a rank 1 fire hazard at the point of impact. Now, mind you, the intent of that is in addition to hitting him with the fire punch, you set him on fire, or you create fire around him. Because the other techniques in here also key off fire happening. Did he freeze again? Did everyone freeze?
He did freeze, yeah.
Okay. I think Brendan was just being very still.
I was being very still. I was using my...
Can I point something out here?
Yeah, sure.
Ice and fire, right? Okay. This could be utilised. If
the way brain works.
If the water, right? If the ice transforms into water, gets up to boiling or anything like that, 1, you've got a scalding effect. But 2, as you have control over it, and I believe that includes whatever way it is, right? You can have it as control whilst it's a water vapour, and if you spread it out far enough, then that water vapor will in fact be flammable because it is oxygen rich, and that could create a vapor explosion.
Oh yeah, and actually, that particular thing, where you're using the more creative interpretation of elements, part of the thing I wanted to do in the rules that I've yet to write is called the Battle of Elements, because that makes sense in a more scientific scale, but like in the magical
In a magical scale, it depends on the intensity of magical power in it, absolutely.
Well, it's even more than that. The elements themselves are animistic. They're squabbling over how reality works. So physics isn't just physics. There's also a bunch of more or less sentient,
It's like light and dark fight against each other. If you try and combine them in the same space, one of them is going to try and be dominant.
Yeah, and basically what you'll have in whenever you're actually doing it is you'll just have this living sheet of what the current landscape of how the elements interact looks like, and who can do what with what element. Like you're talking about, like, is blood water? That's a good question. I don't think that blood thinks so. Water certainly would love that, though. Water's like, yeah, the way that works is whoever had the most recent, most powerful element control gets to kind of dictate that. Because elements are much more passive and aren't really willing to fight it out.
I think blood would be like iron and water as well, like control.
Oh yeah, and there's metal controlling styles in here. So if you want to do Magneto with blood, you'd have to fight it out with the guy who's trying to do blood bending from Avatar. And whoever's got the best magic. Yeah, and that's great. It sets a precedent. Like the most powerful recent thing sets the precedent for what the elements agree on.
Mm. So it's also in their interest to like raise champions of their own and stuff, etc.
Yeah, you'll note there's a lot of elemental association between the clans. They don't blend a whole lot. That's intentional. It's so that players and individual campaigns can blend them as they will. Actually, it's kind of similar to the way I'm doing and this seems unrelated, but in my brain it seems totally related. I'm doing a Dune OSR game, and like one of the things that struck me as really bad about Dune was how the shields work, and how like the combat doesn't make sense, even if you take it at face value with how the physics works with the Lawrence effect. I'm like, well, you could still drop a bomb though. It doesn't make any sense. So like, I decided like, okay, I could sit here and think of every tactical permutation that comes to my mind and still ultimately be wrong. Or even better, I just tell them how it works and let them figure it the hell out. Just mention to GMs who are going to run it, like, hey, look, the way that the combat works in this won't actually make perfect tactical sense. What you're seeing is before it totally adjusts how shields work. And you're going to see how it totally adjusts in your campaign, because your players are way more inventive and bloodthirsty than either you or I will ever be. So they're going to be the ones setting how warfare works, because they're the creative ones. They'll get the advantage of being creative. And I like that, because it puts it back in the hands of the players where it should be.
That's cool. So Fire Punch.
Anyway, yeah, Fire Punch. What's the total of the attack you're going to burn this guy to death with? As
just using a single 9.
Alright. And you're going to add that to your Fire Punch that you bought, right? So it's going to wind up being rank 2, facing 9. Because remember, this is a rank 1 attack, so it's like buying an adds it on. Yep.
I'm confused.
Yeah. That's okay. No, at first it's really unintuitive, and then when
basically you spent the prana cost, Steve, which means that you do the actual technique at a rank 1, okay? But to perform it, you need to have like a die that's facing it or anything like that, and that die in itself is a rank 1.
Okay, so they get added together,
and it's essentially like, yeah, exactly. So like if the facing is just that it can be any one of those, and that's what it matches to of what you've got.
You actually have the best facing, too, because 9 is like the highest you can roll. So that sucks for him. Because his only remaining defensive die is a 0. Sorry, dude.
It burns.
It does burn. So even with 9, he defends with 10, so he takes 19 damage, which burns through the rest of his aura. Let me see. And also does 11 damage to him, so you actually hurt him significantly. So you get through his aura, and he lights on fire and starts shrieking in agony, not realizing, apparently not realizing how badass you guys were. He starts to burn. And here's the fun thing. You get to determine exactly how that injury manifests. He has an imbalance now of rank 1, because you're the guy who pushed through and started burning him. In addition to that, that particular technique, like that fire, sticks around. It's not going to go away. So right now there's a rank 2 fire hazard burning on him, And also, he has a rank 1 imbalance. So I'm going to use the rank 2 fire hazard. Rank 2 fire hazard.
You know what you need to do.
Burn this motherfucker.
Burn his crotch.
Burn his crotch.
Take care of it.
Take care of it.
To give you an idea, and I was going to have more different kind of unique kinds of imbalances. As it stands in the rules right now, there's a few different ones. You can either do his head and torso, and either kind of disorient him and injure him. You can do either of his arms, which could remove his ability to use his weapon, or either of his legs, which will injure his ability to move and flip around. And he can either take the dramatic element of that injury, where he's like limping around with one injured leg, or he can take that as just a hit to his effort pool before he rolls next turn. But the real clincher is, he has to take the dramatic one until he rolls again. So if you injure somebody with a fire punch to the sword arm, they can't use their sword until the next round. So that's kind of fun. And also, as he gets more injured, that injury can get worse. There's also a kind of injury that's the sort of like generic if you're burned, frozen, suffocated, doused in acid, whatever. It's been a while since I wrote that. I don't remember what it does. I think
Okay, those are the options. I'll go for the leg. I would say it was like right at the top of the leg, so it hits him in the crotch.
Alright. Leg plus crotch burn. Ouch. That is a rank 1. And you'll note on the proper character sheet there's a little place for up to 9 imbalances right here in the middle. I put those in the middle because you're going to reference them at the beginning of every single round. And also, like, I want you to know how effed up you're getting whenever you're getting stabbed and burned and such like. Okay, so are you all done burning, or perhaps you would like to follow that up with another punch in the head? You still have a couple of dice, right? Oh, did you freeze again?
He froze again, yeah.
This drat. Rats! I do like drat quite a bit. It's one of my things.
Oh, I love saying bugger. It's a great one.
Andy Chambers, that's who you remind me of. You remind me of Andy Chambers. You got that look. Andy Chambers.
Andy Chambers.
He reminds me of Lemmy. Lemmy is who I think of when I see Elliot.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a wart.
That's a flattering association.
Well, yeah, no, not Lemmy's ugliness. Lemmy's attitude and overall sort of, yeah, not.
Maybe I should like shave this into like mutton chops and everything and get a mullet.
I don't know if that would look super good on you, or on anyone, really.
Well, what can I say? Steve, you've done that. You've got some of your rolls left. You can do something else. You can possibly put some into focus slots.
You could if you want to. You are a cunning arrow, as I recall. So you should have 2 open focus slots.
Yep.
You can take 2 of your dice and save them there between rolls or between rounds. At the end of the round, everyone's going to clear out all remaining effort dice they rolled, unless they're saved in a focus slot. If you
Would I then put one last next round?
Nope, you roll your normal amount, and you also have posters.
Yeah, okay, I'll save the 5 in my focus slot on.
Beautiful! Beautiful! Let me see. Is that everyone? That isn't everyone.
It's me to go.
This guy's totally tapped out. You're about to wail on. This is great.
Well, I was running to the mech.
That's right. You are running to the mech. Okay. So,
to clarify exactly what I got, with my rolls, I had 3, 3, 4, 7, and 8. So I used the 2 threes to make a set of 2, so rank 2. Method of monkey motion, which had cost 7, rank 2, so make that rank 4. And I had mastery and agility, so that's rank 5 at set of 3.
You are blazing over there. Okay. So,
now, I was going to say, I see that I've got Awakened Chakra, which is obviously from Slumbering Chakra. Does that mean that it's already awakened, or would I need to awaken it?
I don't know.
It says awakened, it may have been meant to be put in there as slumbering for me to awaken it, which...
I have that up. I think initially they're down as awakened, and they should have been slumbering, and you awaken them.
No problem, I figured that was likely the case.
Well, let's have you open it up so you got some more magic go-go juice. You have a rank 2, or you have a set of 2 somewhere, right?
Well, I used that for the left and the monkey motion.
Okay.
Other than that, I've got a 4, 7, and 8. So if I can't do anything else aside from running there, perhaps I could put the 8 and the 7 into my focus slots.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that, and we'll call it a day, and we'll start the next round with you at the compound. So, glorious.
So, are we stopping it there?
Well, that's the end of that round.
Yeah, we can do next.
Do you want to finish up this last round? Because I think he's toast.
I think we can.
Well, we have 10 minutes. I don't know if that's is that enough time?
I reckon if we focus on it, and I'll try and whip us in, I think we can get this guy seems to almost be down.
Let's do it. Let's try to finish it out. All right, we'll do it really quick. I'll do the fast version. So it's a very interesting combat. Take all your effort dice that are not saved in focus slots, just sweep them off. And then for every open or awakened chakra, just add 2 more prana to your pool. In that case, this guy's going to get 6.
Do we roll our thing again?
Yeah, at the beginning of the next combat, just pick up all your effort dice and roll them again. Ooh. Now, before I do that, I actually have to decide whether or not this guy is going to take 1 die off, or if he's going to actually take the injury. He's going to take the die off because he's got 9 to spare. So, everybody gets to roll their dice. And round 2, baby! I can't believe that much happened in 1 round. Actually, I can. That's just how it goes. I've found, in this game, round 2 is where players really start to realize how tight the economy actually is. Because when you start off, you have a lot of stuff. You know, you've got, like, all the chakra and all the prana and all that. And then round 2 rolls around, and you're like, oh, I don't have any of that anymore. Uh-oh. Yeah, like, this guy rolled a single set of 2. Such a pitiful roll.
Okay. So, interestingly, I got a 2, a 2, an 8, a 5, and a 3, and I saved a 7 and an 8 in my focus slot, so I've got a pair of 2s and a pair of 8s.
Damn, son, you're about to rock and roll. Alright. Yeah. So, he is going to bid his highest roll of 9 for his initiative. Does anybody want to try to match him?
No.
Nope.
He's only got the 9, does he?
That's his highest one. That's the one he's bidding right now.
But for example, I could bid my set of 2 2s, for example.
Absolutely.
In which case, I'll do that to make sure that I go first to try and nick that mech.
Alright. Try to nick the mech. I love your wonderful British idioms. Those are the best idioms.
Nick the mech.
Nick the mech. Anybody else want to run or bid for initiative, or you just want to roll a d10 to see where you are on the roster after those 2? Because he's not going to try to outbid you. You're going to win initiative.
I got a 7.
Yeah.
7? Alright. 7? Alright. You just want to... So, we put you in the last, Steven, is that right?
Yeah.
Alright, that's fine. So, let's go.
I don't have any power to bed.
As you are the fastest. Okay. So you blaze over there through the jungle, just leaping from treetop to treetop, a very kung fu fashion. It looks like you actually got there before they were able to set this completely up. They've got a bunch of felled logs turning into a fort. There's about 2 dozen soldiers here that have the same kind of guard as them. There's also someone directing them, a young woman who's got like a similar outfit to Red Tyrant, and she's got like a punch sword, so it's just this big blade that's in this little grip thing, and you can punch with it. It's a punch sword. And she's shouting orders to people. In the middle of this whole thing is this gigantic egg, with this fleshy thing that's slowly growing over the broken and ancient, injured Havoc King, which looks somewhere kind of like one of the angels in Evangelion. Like, it's a mech, but it's also clearly alive. Like, it's got like a heartbeat and organs and all this. It looks like it's got one more go in it before it dies, unless it gets inside of its egg and regenerates. So you got the option both to leap inside the thing and mash the kill button and just see what happens, or just go up there and stab it in a vital organ and kill it. Both good options, but I'll leave it to you which one you want to do.
So, it's currently trying to regenerate in the egg type thing.
Yep,
right?
It's not quite there, though.
It's not quite there. It's a Havoc King, so as far as I'm aware of these things, they're sentient, they're probably not that, they're probably hostile as well, is that correct?
They are hostile. These are some of the things that destroyed the world last time, so, yeah. Not a good thing to have. They really can't be used for anything but war.
Okay, but, for example, as somebody who's like a treasure hunter and stuff, I might have like a bit of knowledge about these kinds of things.
You do.
Would I know of any possibility to be able to control it? So say, if I was to protect it whilst it regenerated and then control it afterwards, like, would that be feasible, or would it not be feasible to control it once it's kind of regenerated in its egg?
They kind of have an imprint that they do. If you leap inside of its skull, you can literally like shove your hands into its brain and imprint with it, which means until you die or it dies, it serves you. Kind of about the same loyalty as a very loyal dog would. It's pretty injured. If you use it to attack, it will probably either die or totally exhaust itself and have to go totally into the cocoon. The benefit of doing that, though, is that no one else could use it if you got away. So even if it lived, it would be yours, in word and deed, forever.
I mean, I think I'll probably try and imprint on it.
Alright.
Is it possible to do that and then try and defend it whilst it regenerates, or would I have to, like, kind of use it that moment?
You can do either. You can either defend it as it regenerates.
I'd like to try and imprint and then defend it as it regenerates.
Alright, so, you'll need to leap up there, and then you'll have to take at least a rank 1 heart action to totally, like, synchronize your souls with it. Or I guess it'll be a rank 1 spirit action.
In which case, leaping up there, does that seem like it'd be difficult? I mean, I'm guessing I'll probably have to get past these soldiers and stuff as well, wouldn't I?
One good clean jump would do it. They didn't expect you, they're not looking for you, and all of them are busy right now. So they didn't even see you, like, zoom from the treetops over here.
So a good clean jump, would a rank 1 with a high result be able to achieve that, or would I need to, like, spend a set?
You're going to want at least a rank 3 to get all the way over there in one clean jump. If you go rank 2, you can make it, but you'll probably make noise as you, like, hit lower on the armor plating and have to
So I have a rank 2 at 8 left over. So I think I'll use that for the jump, and then I'll try and use my focused 7 to try and do the heart check.
Not bad. Do you have agility mastery?
I do have agility mastery, indeed.
That makes it rank 3.
Fantastic.
So you can jump right to the top, and before anyone looks, just plunge your hands right into its ruby meats and have it awaken. When it does that, when it imprints on you, you get the ability to use its attack, if you want to, its major attack. All of its movement and its weaponry systems, like its arms and whatnot, are online or offline, but its main attack, which is called the Gates of Hell, it opens up its and just this beam, pure energy channeled from hell, shoots out and blows something up. That's a rank 7 destructive force. It can do it one time. As far as its diagnostic goes, like it's fed into your mind as you imprint on it, as far as that goes, you can do that once safely. It's not going to kill it to do that, and you can do that once, ever, until it regenerates.
Sure.
So yeah, that's a thing you can now do.
Okay.
Check you out.
That's pretty cool.
Well, really big things like this, instead of paying Prana for superpowers, you usually have a limited number of things that you can own. Yeah. Like, if its weapon systems are online, you can smash with them, and that's like a rank 5 smash, or you could use a rank 5 or 6 power action to lift stuff up once per arm per round. Yeah, it's right, and if you fight it, it fights a lot like a normal monster would.
Yeah.
So it's got an effort pool in addition to that. So yeah.
Joel, we're gonna have to end it here to do the other podcast, unfortunately.
Okay. If you want to end this real quick, do you just want to say that you shoot off its mouth laser and blow this dude up? Because 70 damage would absolutely kill him.
Yeah. Why don't I aim it?
Oh, he said
shoot a beam.
Okay, so to end it up, the beam launches out of this thing's gaping maw, sears across the intervening distance, smashes through the mountain that this guy made, hits him dead on, and he explodes in a giant mushroom cloud of shrapnel and bone. You guys, of course, are unaffected because he was able to aim it with precision. Go have it, King. So that's the end of the Red Tyrant.